Greetings, fellow Gothamites. Bluedragonfive here,
And Rohith Dhar here.
talking Harley Quinn, the HBO Max show, formerly DC Universe, transitioned to HBO Max. The animated Harley Quinn show. Not quite your Batman the animated series Harley Quinn, something a little more edgy, let's say. So as you probably are aware, Harley Quinn season 3, finally after pandemic times, is going to drop. It's going to drop this week, and we thought, because basically we had plans to cover season 2 a lot earlier, but they kind of fell through. And we always imagined like, hey, we'll recap season 2 right before season 3 drops. Little did we know it was going to be so long, but here we are. So suffice it to say, it's basically considered as like a little recap before you start season 3, a little reflecting on what came before to get you all kind of all nice and cozy and caught up for season 3 as it begins week to week. This week, and joining me, of course, Rohith Dhar. Rohit, how do you feel about Harley Quinn? The animated series on the whole, like the 2 seasons, which I trust you've seen them both. Given we were talking about 2 here today, so how'd you feel about the first season?
Oh, great. It was surprising how much I enjoyed the show. If you would have say a few years ago gave me the premise of the show, I would have been a lot more resistant to the idea of this show. Because basically Harley Quinn is put the DC universe in the prism of an adult swim show, like Venture Brothers or Rick and Morty, and just play in that kind of space. And you know, I guess for me, I've sort of grown accustomed to sort of the more traditional, like classic, heroic or just conventional versions of the DC universe. That thing that's a little bit more, edgier and adult. I feel maybe at the content level, I wouldn't be on board for. But upon watching the first and second episode of the first season, like I was hooked. And season one was just great, a lot of great comedy. And season two, it's like I think it's a lot of good comedy, but I think season two has a bit of a dramatic turn or like dramatic moments that I think really show this writing staff to be really good at getting the characters while still be able to maintain their like comedic sensibilities and the overall satirical and just you know humor of the show. It's still I would classify it as a comedy that has very strong dramatic moments, similar to say like a show like Ted Lasso, or I'm trying to think of any other like comedies that are have like really strong dramatic moments, in between the jokes. But yeah, no, I watching season two when it came out and then rewatching it. I didn't finish my rewatch of it. It came out to episode 8 or 9, but I think I have such strong memories of the last 3 or 4 episodes that I can speak eloquently and intelligently on the overall season.
Okay, yeah. So here's the thing with season 2, I feel just reflecting on it, I think the guiding light for DC, kind of at its strongest right now, seems to be the irreverent R-rated tone between this and what this and Peacemaker really excelled at. Just to give some recent examples, it's kind of the James Gundian tone, which of course is very appropriate given James Gunn is going to show up as himself in the the new season,
Yeah.
Harley Quinn, which is going to be fun. So I don't know. It seems like DC again. That's kind of like the main thing they're using to kind of differentiate themselves. And again, it seems like they're not exclusively leaning into it, but it definitely seems to be kind of the strength that they have over the MCU right now until they finally like put Deadpool and things.
Well, I think that's really a testament, not necessarily a testament, but that's evident of sort of how the two companies operate. Because DC is owned by Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers doesn't have that like strong association, and if you were critical about it, like chained attachment to the family brand as a Disney. So and considering HBO Max doesn't really have a specific like target audience, it's just sort of like here's everything for everyone. So there's stuff for kids, teens, adults, and like older people. So Harley Quinn just comes in as sort of a very niche, audience, but is still successful enough to get a third season. Hopefully, more seasons after that. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think what really I think the show's greatest strength is that again we do have like an idea when we think basically DC as far as animation goes. That was always been the biggest advantage they've had over Marvel. I'm not trying to turn this into like a Marvel DC thing. I'm saying in general though, the reason the DC at its strongest, I think, in pop culture has been its work in animation. I think it's been kind of the one of the strongest testaments. Obviously, it basically carved out what I and I think a large majority of people would say is the definitive Batman. Of course, that gives you Harley Quinn in the first place, Batman the animated series. So they're very aware of that when they
yeah.
make this show. Yeah.
Well, I think part of that's because going back to Warner Brothers, like Warner Brothers acquired DC way before Marvel was acquired by Disney, and
Yeah.
so Warner Brothers animation and that kind of like climate, and with things like Batman the animated series, you have people like Paul Dini, Bruce Timm, Alan Burnett, all that, and now DC has like how Marvel is sort of the forerunners of the like cinematic universe and like really are trailblazers in the superhero movie space. DC are trailblazers in the super animated space. So
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. So I feel like what they've taken advantage of here is okay. Let's not just try to do the same hat trick again. Let's basically let's sell it. Basically, this whole series feels like in a large sense, it's kind of a celebration. It's kind of an irreverent celebration of the DC universe because we're basically planting Harley Quinn kind of in a realistically a fully established universe. No real introductions or anything. It's all there.
mhm,
It's all there, but it's a very self-aware kind of irreverent take after years of like how do you reinvent it? Well, let's just call it out for what it is, which in some cases is really silly, and also in kind of the modern, in kind of the modern kind of setting we have today, which again can be a little more hard edged. It
mhm,
can be. So I think ultimately what's really interesting. So I really love season one in that is a really it's really straightforward. It's a good narrative, and if you look at like the arc of kind of where we're going with things here, is that season one establishes okay our very very irreverent take on Harley Quinn, which is basically filtered through a thing we've never really seen adapted in animation, with the exception of one movie I don't want to talk about right now that was, was animated with Harley Quinn. But we've it's Harley Quinn separated from the Joker, on her own. It's like okay, so we have her breaking up with him, and her very much like establishing okay, what's kind of like let's take the new 52 Harley Quinn, but kind of like make it work a lot better. And and then then this season transitions us into okay, now that the Harley we've done the identity story with who is Harley Quinn without the Joker, and she's coming into her own, figuring all that stuff out about her origins and everything, and who she is, what she wants, and ultimately what she wants is this season we'll explore. Again, we're going from the old relationship to the new relationship with Poison Ivy.
mhm,
And again, Poison Ivy, you have like kind of the new relationship stuff, and ultimately, this season starts off as a revenge story, but ultimately, very soon blooms into kind of a really well told kind of love story that's extended through the course of the season. And I imagine season three will reflect on the status quo shift that the new relationship has kind of been brought upon here.
mhm.
So, and basically, what I really love is that each season, it seems, I'm going to assume this with season three as well, is that each season kind of like throws out the rules in establishing the tone, which obviously the introductory point with season one and season two is like, okay, how can we get even crazier? And they do. And it's like, okay, the rules that you think we're playing safe by, they're not necessarily, we're basically leaning a little further into it, and there are less rules,
Mhm.
which, uh, which is interesting. It's a bold choice, and so far, and it's worked out pretty well so far.
Yeah, I think the show really, especially in the second season, really does a good job in not being enslaved to the status quo
Yeah.
and, making changes and sort of like, all right, Gotham City now becomes a wasteland, and we'll spend like several episodes in that wasteland status quo.
Yeah.
And that's always such a like tough balancing act because certain shows like they'll get into like a status quo as quickly as they get out of this they'll change it to a new status quo, and then quickly we'll get back to the old status quo like after if it's a show like after an episode or two, if it's an episode or two. And then some other shows they'll just get too stuck in like a certain status quo and won't, come back, to the original status quo in a way that's like, oh, like, natural or something like that. Like this show knows how to milk a a story arc or just a change in circumstances well enough without overstaying the welcome for that particular story. It then goes back to like traditionals, like all right, you come back to Gotham City, but there are things that change for the characters and the overall plot line that makes that like slight shifts worthwhile.
Yep. Okay, let's begin our breakdown. We got 13 episodes. We're basically kind of, again, folks, we're just gonna go through them all here, and we're gonna kind of recap kind of the big talking points that really kind of like can still have us kind of a buzz and everything, and this that reestablish like the big important beats that happen. So, episode 1, New Gotham. So, New Gotham. Let me tell you the biggest thing I loved about for one of the things that really caught me with the first season of Harley Quinn. I was really excited going into season 2 with at the top. The No Man's Land status quo shift at the end. I thought was such a brilliant move. Like, oh my god, it's like you're setting up the irreverent tone. Like, yeah, we're throwing the rules out, and like, oh god, we've essentially taken Batman and Joker and everyone off the board. It's Harley's game, and that's where we've ended the first season. So that's where we start here, and basically, she kind of she kind of meanders in the chaos, and villains form an injustice gang of sorts.
Mhm.
And wait, yeah, no, sorry, Injustice League. And this, I'm thinking of Injustice Gang clearly from the animated show, but they kind of form an Injustice League, and Harley wants revenge. So it kind of starts off her main thing here. So it's basically 3 weeks after No Man's Land is it happened, and the United States basically gives up on Gotham, much like No Man's Land.
Yeah.
Again, it's just chaos without Batman, Joker, the Justice League, which we've also taken off the table, and the Legion of Doom as well. So it's a complete, like, everything that was established as far as order goes, gone.
What was interesting in the first episode was uh just the overall like political, not political, but like just climate around New Gotham and New Gotham. With it being a mature show, like or basically a TVMA show, like you can actually see what are the actual ramifications like of a city becoming a no man's land. Like people are just ripping arms apart, blood everywhere. Rats come about. There's just like no infrastructure is apparent. Um, and thus
You
that's
need
just
water purifiers and power and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah. Like that's something that like you really don't get much into in like really most superhero fiction because like most superhero fiction doesn't really have a status quo where like the city itself is in ruins outside of like no man's land, but like beyond that, like this show just go delves. All right, things went to things went down the toilet. Now, what happens after that?
Yeah,
And
so
you go ahead.
no, I was going to transition to a different part, but by all means.
And the power vacuum is great. I love the how the Injustice League, the banner is just the traditional Justice League logo, and they just put in before it.
Yep.
The gag of Bane not being respected by the other
And he
Gotham.
gets like the little folding chair just as a joke. We thought it'd be funny to give you the folding chair.
We got a bear in a folding chair.
I'm in a GD folding chair. Anyway, yes. So I love. Also, I love. I just want to shout this out. I love Harley's epic entrance into the show with like kind of like the Coney Island bumper car with the Joker's face and being pulled by Bud and Lou. It was kind of throwing like little fan service there. Oh look, it's Bud and Lou. Ah,
I love the part where she kidnaps us.
the sushi chef. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that in the first episode or the second
No,
episode?
yeah, it's in the first episode. Yeah,
Okay,
because
yeah.
they're looking like, like King Shark wants the Clayface wants a spider roll, and King Shark wants
No, he's asking if a spider roll is too gauche for a classic sushi chef. And
yeah.
then King Shark is like, "Oh, I'll like have like so and so, but no rice. I'm trying to maintain my figure."
God, I love Ron. Ron Funch is just so darn funny as King Shark. I love that we have not really had a bad King Shark yet, and they're all very different and they're all very fun.
Yeah, that's like that's such a interesting character to just pop up all across like other media. Um, like you wouldn't think he would have much utility beyond just being like dumb muscle, but for
He's
the
the
most,
IT guy.
yeah, yeah. This voice cast like is great, and especially Alan Tudyk as Clayface. I think has like a great has great moments in this season.
Seriously,
I love
I bow before Alan Tudyk. Seriously, I know he plays him in in animation, obviously, but seriously, I want Alan Tudyk to play the Joker in live action. That's what I really want. You want if
well,
I'm looking
he
for a
voices the
definitive.
Joker in the show.
I'm sorry, what?
I mean, Alan Tudyk voices the Joker in this show.
I know that's what I'm saying. I know that he voices the Joker
Oh,
with this, but I'm saying I think he does such a good job, and he looks the part. He could easily, if you're looking for like I still feel like we have not quite gotten like a definitive like page to the screen like a Batman on screen. Yeah, I'm looking for like a John Hamm Batman and like an Alan Tudyk Joker. That's what I'm looking for. I don't know.
I
I
mean,
don't
I
want to
feel
get
like
bogged down in casting and everything, but that's just every time Alan Tudyk enters the picture, I keep thinking that.
honestly, a really good. It would be a really cool episode idea to like, you know how like Rick and Morty and SpongeBob have like an episode where the voice actors play the characters in live action.
Yeah.
Have that be an episode of Harley Quinn.
Well, you know what's funny? In Doom Patrol, they did a thing where I think one of the second season probably. See, Alan took the reason that I connected two and two and like, oh my god, he could absolutely play him in live action is he plays a character,
Yeah,
I
I know.
believe Mister Nobody.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
know. I watch Super Patrol. Yeah,
and the way he's dressed and everything looks very much like the Joker, only not purple. And they had like this gag in Doom Patrol. Where they had like the little Harley Quinn bumper because they were on DC Universe at the time, saying, "Hey, watch Harley Quinn." When he was on screens. That's kind of the closest they've gotten to referencing that. But you're right. That would be a fun idea. Anyway, yeah. Sorry, back to the Harley of it all here. So I love so Harley's on fire this episode. I love the whole like when she is actually kind of proactively trying to do some stuff here. I love how she kind of destabilizes the criminal element by she rallies the goons with the pep talk, and I love the whole goon hench. Like I identify as hench, just it's hilarious.
I love the gag of like the goon henchmen like turning on their Gotham bosses.
Yeah, like the Riddler is being interrupted mid broadcast, and like
Inquisitor.
the Inquisitor. That's very funny. Yes, ultimately, basically, they kind of restore order of the villains. They call Harley in and they freeze her. They put her on ice at the Iceberg Lounge, which, by the way, they do reference in another episode. I'm pretty sure it's a direct nod to Gotham. What we did with the Riddler in well, not wait, was it the Riddler? Yeah, in the Riddler in Gotham. Yeah, we put him on ice for one of the seasons. So I think it's a direct reference to that. But it's like a great idea. So we've taken Harley off the table. What we've done effectively is when we unfreeze her and break her out in a really fun, hilarious, like a kind of Ocean's 11 gone wrong sequence. Plus the whole like the smoke effect and everything. And those anyway.
The bird has got the worm. Tweet tweet.
Yep. Just so funny. I love my point being we found a really effective way to yet again kind of like shift the status quo. Like we start off like 3 weeks later, and then like 2 months later, and like the territory again. We've gone the full no man's land where the territories of Gotham been carved up by the different members of the Injustice League, of course, our Batman rogues. And again, it sets out like a really straightforward, like, okay, Harley wants to kill these guys, and big status quo shift. And this to set the tone for the season for me. She actually killed the Penguin, which I did not see coming. Did you?
No, I didn't see that coming.
So mortality is a big thing. There's one thing the MCU and Star Wars and stuff doesn't really have. Like we've actually killed people off.
More, I would get that more so for Star Wars.
Yeah, you're right. I'm just throwing the MCU in the mix. I'll defend the MCU deaths and stuff. I'm just saying Star Wars was inexcusable to me at this point.
Yeah, no, but for the Penguin, it's like it's crazy the voice actors they got the villains for the Justice League.
Wayne Knight is an excellent Penguin.
Yeah, Jim Rash is a great Riddler.
He's okay. No. He's good for this Riddler. I'm just saying he's not a definitive Riddler, but for this Riddler, he's great.
And he's a great. That's what I'm saying. Like just with the materials given,
Yeah.
I love his moments with Dr. Psycho. And Alfred Molina as Mr.
Okay, that was my favorite. I love me some Alfred Molina. Period. Making a Mr. Freeze.
Voice acts Two-Face in Harley Quinn.
I'm blanking on. I'm blanking. I don't think it's Jim Meskimen. I don't think it is. It's somebody else. It's I'm just utterly blanking on the name. But I think I think he's a comedian. Or oh wait, no, he was he's the guy I think he's the guy who played Ben Franklin in The Office. For that Ben Franklin episode, it's a really sorry, it's a too deep a pool. I'm blanking on the guy, but anyway,
Andrew Daly.
that's the guy. Yes, Andrew Daly. That's who I was thinking of. Yeah, he's Two Face. Of course, I don't know who does the voice of Mandy.
Oh, he does the one. I remember him because he does like this one big Comedy Central show called like Review, where like he
Yeah,
reviews. Oh, okay.
yeah. Anyway, where was I going with this? All right, Alfred Molina, though. I love that of course, Alfred Molina lauded for his portrayal of a sympathetic villain in Doc Ock, playing the ultimate sympathetic villain, and Mr. Freeze. Excellent casting.
And who both have a wife that they still love, or a wife that whose death or just basically comatose state is a tragic part of their lives.
Yes, definitely kind of a wife angle on both of them. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see. So, of course, after our Ocean's Rescue mission goes belly up, we kill the penguin off, and also reference to Batman Returns. We bite his nose off.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, kill him gruesomely. Also, so of course, really, as you probably know, Jim Gordon probably one of my all-time favorite characters. So I do love the irreverent rendition of Commissioner Gordon in this show. Is a lot of it's always been a lot of fun. We cast Chris Maloney as him that he's in.
No, I've seen trailers for it. I
You
know.
really, it's all on Netflix. It's only I got preemptively canceled. I think they wanted to do a third season, but the two seasons are on Netflix. I highly recommend. The bare minimum, watch the first season. It's really good. That one adapts the book.
Mhm.
Sorry. Yes. So Maloney's hilarious as kind of the haggard Jim Gordon. Of course, him playing the cop procedural in real life makes that even funnier. And yeah, people forget Chris Maloney is insanely funny. So this and Happy like remind folks of the irreverent comedy that he's so perfect at playing. So Gordon, we're taking the no man's land idea of Jim Gordon again being kind of like having a rough time where Batman's nowhere. Yeah,
I forgot that Chris Maloney voiced Gordon in the show because I could not tell it was Chris Maloney. Like I've like watched some Law and Order, so like I have a good sense of what Chris Maloney sounds like. But Gordon, he is a legit good voice actor. Like I don't think if you showed a random person who maybe has some awareness Law and Order, I don't think you would know. I don't think they would know that Chris Maloney's voicing Gordon.
yeah, he's done a bunch of DC stuff as well. Like he was Green Lantern once, and he was also in the Man of Steel, and he pops up now and again. But again,
He's
folks,
David Dastmalchian.
yeah, he is kind of like David Smolch. Yeah, not as extensive as old the Smolchin, but yes, yeah, he does pop up relatively. Fan of the DC universe, which is good.
Mhm.
Point being, so Gordon here, the idea that No Man's Land, it's kind of all falling on Gordon's shoulders, and this is kind of a more washed up Gordon, and he is not taking to this well at all. Or there's no Batman, he's getting divorced, and I love these are things that are from the comics. We're just kind of throwing him in a very irreverent way, all at once. He's got no GCPD. He's truly we're seeing Gordon at his absolute low point in this no man's land status. So that's quite interesting. We like Robin showing up in the bat suit and everything. Importantly, Bruce Wayne is found at the end of the episode, but he's kind of comatose. So we're gonna be dealing with that in a few episodes. All right, so that brings us to the end of the first episode. Again, like the territory's been carved up, we're in full no man's land, and that brings us to episode number 2.
Riddler, you.
Riddler, you.
Oh man, I love Riddler wanting to be a dean of a university, and the commercial is like, oh, this is come to Riddler U, where you get where education or like the log line is education is power, so is clean water and electricity.
I like that we kind of made a leap. I know it's not really the same thing at all. It's kind of like a little bit of a 0 year thing, with 0 year already bears similarities to No Man's Land.
Hmm.
So I kind of like that. Though, kind of like Riddler has like this utopian, like kind of like, hey, look, come to college amidst the the destruction of, of everything.
Uh,
And
you go ahead.
it makes sense that he's going to reward intelligence and everything on his own terms. But really, ultimately, he's using people as guinea pigs to get power for the thing. So it's kind of the false promise of knowledge, which
which
again, this feels on brand for the Riddler.
which makes it fun, even funnier for where he ends up at the end of the season.
Yeah. Oh God. Yes. Yeah.
I love the gag. It's like Riddler Riddler needs to bring back degrees that help us in job attainment, like art history. It was like, oh man, there. I feel like that's like a that has there's that one writer that either it was an art history major or knew someone that was an art history
Oh, it
major.
had to be. Oh, for sure. Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, that's the answer. Again, Riddler kind of basically with his own Harvard here, and ultimately also his own mascot. It's Jiminy Riddles. Sorry, Riddles is really. It's like sometimes delivery kind of sells the gag.
Yeah,
Anyway, so basically, Harley, Ivy, and Clayface infiltrate Riddler U, and let's talk about Clayface's undercover role this episode. Let's talk about Stephanie.
I love Clayface being so method acted with Stephanie, and like the both Harley and Ivy are annoyed by it. But I love the comment that Ivy makes. It's like, she seems to be really popular and she really works that crop top. And Harley's like, God, I'm so annoying. I can't seem to make that work.
And I love later, when they're on the wheel, like Harley says, like this is the best character work he's done in a while. I do think it's hysterical when Ivy kind of slaps some sense into Clayface during the party, because the idea of Clayface in this role being so method, like more method than Jared Leto, kids, but much more tolerable. He's I love he's he's so fixated on Chad. It's always a Chad. Never any good Chads. He's fixated on Chad, and Ivy just kind of slaps him and says, "You're an effing clay monster. Act like it." It's really funny. Now we introduce a big character this episode, the Rohit. We should talk about her.
Yes, Barbara Gordon.
Yeah,
Yeah. Very interesting to like watch. She's great character. The fact that she's played by like Kaylee Coco's sister, um, it's kind of funny because sometimes like especially later in the season, like if you can if you can close your eyes and just like hear the voices, like Kaylee Coco's sister does sound a lot like her in certain respects. So it'd be kind of confusing if you just like think it was like, wow, like Barbara just sounds a little like it's just the only inflection cadence that like gives that like reminds me of Kaylee Coco's voice.
yeah. There's a little. I didn't really distract me, but you're right because
It wasn't,
honestly,
it wasn't really distracting. It was just kind of like something like because I've seen all these episodes when they came out and rewatched them once and rewatched them like leading up to this. So it's kind of been more on sort of the forefront.
right. So let's see. So that's the thing. So Batgirl ultimately she's kind of in the huntress role in No Man's Land to a degree, in kind of an odd way of doing it. Not odd in a bad way, just in terms of like an appropriate way for the way we're tackling this story here. Where she's kind of like the interim Batman, like Huntress kind of started off as in that story when
Or
Batman
like
was gone.
Cassie or like Sandra Kane, Batgirl.
Yeah, I mean, sure, that's another. Yeah, it's another. It's probably yeah. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, so the idea is she's the interim Batman, and kind of that Gotham and her father really needs right now. Which, of course, the idea Gordon really needs a Batman. Otherwise, just kind of like he's gonna room with his daughter, having sad kind of cries in the shower.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. Let's see.
Love the part. Best part about chest hair when the chip drops on Gordon, and it's like, and Barbara's like, it's not. That's not even the chip. That's not even from the bag of chips you're eating right now.
God, this is real. We take Gordon to a really sad place this season before we sober him up. Let's see. So we have the water purifier quest with King Shark and Doctor Psycho. It's just some ordinary kind of shenanigans there, but they're going through the Two-Face territory, and then not Bane Town, but Baneton.
It's weird that nobody has said like, oh, it's like Boston, like every like Bane went with Plankton and not Boston.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm keep thinking like Downton Abbey. So obviously that's what they're. I'm pretty sure it's what they're referencing. But yeah, the whole yeah. Let's see. Oh, we have the murder car, by the way. How great was the was the murder car thing they
Oh,
built?
great! I love Cheryl being one of the more popular like side characters for
Yeah,
this season.
Cheryl just kept popping up, and I love that we got so much mileage out of her here, and then we kind of took her. Think about this: we take her to a really, we make her jacked up and hulked out in Bainton, and then we put her in the pit, and then like when we set things back to normal a little bit, it's like, oh, she's just back to being Cheryl. She's still around.
And she's just a random Southern cop.
Yeah, yeah, like oh shit. I just love that Gordon has to keep delineating. It's like the men and Cheryl.
I love also the look that Gordon gives her when she says, "Oh, I like the coconut
I
water."
love that with the coconut water. It's like, oh, we have left is coconut water, and she opens the thing. Oh, Cheryl.
She's like, "What? I like it."
God, it's so funny. Cheryl rocks. Cheryl's great. So let's see. At the end of the day, Batgirl as a vigilante helps take out helps take out the Riddler. We have the gag with the gun where like she says, "No, I'm gonna shoot the control panel." As Harley's like shooing her out, like, "No, it's I'm gonna shoot you with it." So Riddler ends up being on the hamster wheel, which is going to end up getting him ridiculously in shape. And we had the vining gag was also really funny. And Gordon walks in, and it's like the Harley Quinn's wrapped him up. Sorry, Ivy has wrapped him up and everything. It's like, what's going on here, Dad? We're vining.
I'm surprised that like it's man. Now I just feel so old and thinking about Vine compilations. It's like it'd be hilarious if that was made into an actual trend on TikTok.
Hmm.
But yeah, I really liked them using the new 52 Burnside outfit. Um, the outfit is I don't mind in the comics. The only issue I ever have with that outfit is like it's a weird outfit for Barbara Gordon to have. After her like many other like professional, well designed like legit superhero costumes.
Ordinarily, yes, but in this context, we had a really good reason for it
Yeah,
because she was
that's
kind
I
of stark.
appreciate that. And man, and soon within depending upon how the DCU shakes out, we'll see that costume again in live action for the first time with Leslie Grace's Batgirl.
It's really cool, by the way, is with this new outfit. Because initially, I was a little hesitant with the outfit as well when they did the rebrand, new costume and everything. But I love that. I think the live action interpretation really kind of like crystallized for me that, hey, we can use this outfit to homage the Yvonne Craig Batgirl, which of course is really. I mean, technically, it's like the genesis of Batgirl. With the whole. I mean, I know there was like Batwoman before her, but I'm saying when they did like legit Batgirl it was mainly through the series, which then got readapted into the comics, from what I understand.
Yeah, and with her costume, it was all purple, and with
Yeah,
the yeah, so it's cool. It's such an interesting like this just to see like this is a side like Batgirls like costumes throughout the comics and animation movies like one like the all purple, the all blue, the blue black setup, the blue gray setup.
yeah. All right, so let's transition to episode 3, Trapped.
You
Oh wait,
mean
sorry. Oh yes,
Catwoman?
yeah, Catwoman. Sorry about that. You know what's weird? I swear to you. Do you? Sorry, it's just kind of no. It is Catwoman. It's just kind of paranoid because I could have sworn like initially when it came out they called it Trapped. I think that's why I wrote it down like that. But I don't know. It's weird. Like back during DC Universe when they had it there before it was on HBO Max and everything. I wonder if they rebranded any of the episode titles. But I'm sorry, I'm drifting into kind of paranoia talk here. We're just gonna Catwoman though. So this is a big episode. Well, we introduced Catwoman. So Sanaa Lathan as Catwoman.
Mhm. I love the like this take on Catwoman being like because she's the most popular female back character in comics and just overall media. So it's kind of funny in like a meta way that she's like the cool, aloof, popular girl that everyone's like nervous to like associate with because she's that like intimidating in terms of her aura and you see how Poison Ivy reacts with her and just acts all weird around her.
Yeah, yeah, it's really basically we do play with a lot of Gotham City sirens here. Where okay, you have like the official, you have the official lineup. You know, you got Catwoman, Harley, and Poison Ivy, like the big three
Mhm.
together. And how would that dynamic go? And well, it's like, yeah, well, I mean, Ivy. That's the thing. We kind of play with the status of Ivy, where she had a Batman phase and she kind of grew out of it. And obviously, Catwoman very much kind of on again, off again with Batman, and Harley Quinn trying to grow out of that as well. So they're all kind of an interesting place, just kind of like in terms of kind of like defining themselves. But Ivy very much looks for the approval of Catwoman
Mhm.
because she is of such kind of a high iconic status, being the classic Batfoe that she is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, it's not. I think ultimately it's kind of the confidence that kind of inspired Ivy. I think a lot of that came from Catwoman for her to kind of like march by the beat of her own drum and kind of growing up. One could see, and I think that's probably why they're like they're seeking approval from her.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
also interesting for that with Catwoman coming into the picture that you get to see Ivy's insecurities in regards to sort of how she views herself and whether she not necessarily so I guess selling out is what we would be the term, but really just sort of like, oh, you kind of deviated from where you started out as a quote unquote villain. Like Ivy's whole thing was to like, fight for the environment, and now she's just hanging around with a bunch of like C or D list villains, give or take, just going on random like villain shenanigans and not like focusing on going after corporate executives for ruining the environment, stuff like that.
yeah, yeah. So ultimately, what happened here is as Harley Quinn, she recruited Catwoman to steal Firefly's flamethrower from Doctor Trap. Um, and I love that we basically. I think ultimately it's basically the idea that you're trapped in your gimmick and have to escape. Basically, escaping that being the courage to change. I think thematically is kind of what the episode's going for with the Doctor Trap thing of it all. I think it's like okay, they're kind of trapped in a museum, but it's like can they change ultimately to the end of the season?
Yeah,
If that makes any sense.
sure. And also like with especially with the Kite Man like wanting to propose, and maybe in a certain reading of it, it's like Ivy chooses herself to go from one trap to another trap of
Yeah.
and what's really like great and sad about like the whole relationship between Ivy and Kite Man is that like and actually, this is something I want to say. So, like, is it at the end of this episode where Ivy like fully commits it, to the whole engagement thing?
Yeah, at the end she says yes, like officially says
Yeah.
yes to the
So,
thing. Yeah.
what's interesting, I mean, to jump near the end of the episode, is that like Kite Man's like, okay, like if we're going too fast, I understand, and like Kite Man was never the one to push the whole
Yeah,
marriage thing
Kite Man
on.
is so ridiculously patient and really, really supportive of Ivy,
Well,
which is always a great aspect
realis-
of that
I
character.
mean, realistically, like Kite Man, should ideally wait a year or two or maybe
Oh, he
3.
should, absolutely, but, like,
Yeah,
No Man's Land happened, though, so you don't know what's gonna happen
sure,
tomorrow.
sure. No, that actually is a good point. But the thing that's really sad and tragic is that, like, Kaiman was willing to wait and be patient, but Poison Ivy was the one that decided to say yes.
That is really ultimately, let's just take a moment to admire, how ridiculously great is this show's take on Kite Man, am I right?
Yeah, God, in light of sort of how Kaiman's portrayed in Tom King's run,
Yeah.
I wonder if they ever gonna touch, like, him having a son, and, like, him being killed off, maybe in Harley Quinn or in his own like show, like the one that's like Cheers but for villains.
Well, here's the thing. We did go as far as we revealed the name, like Charles Brown, which is the whole
Yeah,
Charlie Brown gag. So we definitely they reference that. But given the fact, if I recall, Riddler killed his son, and I don't buy this Riddler did that. I don't know.
I mean, it might be a different villain that maybe like a Doctor Psycho or like a random Gotham villain.
Well, that's the thing. Not Doctor Psycho, but you're right though. It could be a different villain that maybe we're not thinking of. Like, well, it probably wasn't Condiment King, but we'll get to that. Um, but
You would think like oh like there was like a poisonous condiment that the son like
Was
consumed.
allergic to or
Yeah,
something.
but no, but like the actual way he died was that he just it was a slip and fall.
Oh
Condom.
God. Yeah, yeah, but yeah, that thing I don't know. I love that Kite Man's had such a resurgence because there's like three things with Kite Man because you have the Tom King run, which is the big resurgence, which honestly is the reason we have Kite Man, like the whole hell yeah catchphrase. The whole
Yeah.
reason I think Kite Man has gotten the respect of like, okay, let's take the insanely ridiculous villain that is Kite Man and let's do something kind of memorable with him, which Tom King did, and then we did it more in the comedic sense, but kind of an endearing comedic sense
Tragic
here.
comedy. You have it's both tragic and comedic for Kai Man the way he's portrayed throughout that run.
Which again is kind of like a nice, which again is kind of like the new signature of Kite Man. Also, it seems to me that I'm not saying they're going to go, but then again, it's James Gunn, so you never know. We did reference Kite Man in Peacemaker as like, and again, like I think realistically, one of the early, I forget if Peacemaker. So they referenced like Peacemaker, his first villain was Kite Man in that
Yeah.
show, and I forget if that's. I know they had an encounter in the comics. I forget if that was like Peacemaker's first encounter or what, or they basically just referenced like the first Kite Man heist. The point being, we could have a Kite Man conceivably in a Peacemaker Peacemaker season or what have you going forward. And I would wonder if they would go as far as to characterize him like this one, or probably it's most likely going to be James Gunn doing his own thing, but he is going to be in season 3 of this show, so I can't help but wonder.
Actually, now that today about it, we could probably do the father. You could probably do the like him having a son and losing his son
Yeah,
through.
in the James Gunn one, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, that's ooh.
That's what I'm
Ooh, who do
saying.
you want to play? Ooh, who do you want to play Kai Man? I have my pick in
Well, I don't have anyone at the moment. Who do you got?
Nathan Fillion.
Well, no, Nathan Fillion's already he's a TDK in the
Oh,
Suicide
that's
Squad.
true.
So.
Oh, yeah.
No, 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 wrong. That's a great choice, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I,
Um, I
it's
think part of me wants to say Alan Tudyk, but again, he's I don't want to play the Joker, and we've kind of put him in other DC stuff, so I don't know if he'd be the guy for that, but I don't know.
yeah. It would have to be someone who's like just kind of like an average everyday guy.
Wonder if Bob Odenkirk might be the guy for Kite Man.
I feel like someone like that's a little bit on the like in his 30s.
No, you're right. Yeah, we probably want to skew a little bit more. It would be someone. Probably. Here's the thing: if we didn't, I'm thinking of like people we've kind of seen in other roles. We got to drift back on the focus here, but
Yeah.
I'm thinking like Peter from Deadpool too. Like he might be a good Kite Man.
Or Chris Pratt, really. Like I don't know if maybe he's too famous for him to not be
Well,
Blue.
he is going to be wrapping up with Guardians, so I mean,
Yeah,
that would be an
honestly, yeah,
opening.
Chris Pratt as Kai Man would actually be like, especially if it's sort of similar to like the version in Harley Quinn would work.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it's possible, and you do get some pathos. Anyway, focusing back up here. So, point being, we're going into the museum, which basically it seems like we basically salvaged a lot of the stuff that was in the Batcave. It seems, by the way, because we have like giant coins and dinosaurs and stuff and penguins umbrellas. It feels like that Dr. Trap ransacked like a destroyed Batcave possibly.
Mhm.
But I don't know. The Batcave seems rather untouched, so I don't know. I think it's just their way of like putting like Batcave stuff just in a museum, and
Well,
maybe that's
I
just
mean,
what it was.
I figure like I mean I don't know if we get a good shots of like where Wayman is located, but I figure it would be like outside of like the city itself,
Right.
like it's on its own island or something like
Yeah, the
that.
whole Palestinians kind of thing, or the island approach. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, regardless, we're going there to steal Firefly's flamethrower to burn through, basically get into Mr. Freeze's territory to indeed kill him. Now,
I love the two goons at the beginning.
yes, that's hilarious. The two goons are priceless, Kevin and Fred. Just basically, it's the two of them is literally expositing. The only way they're gonna get through this with Fireflies. I didn't say it. Yeah, you were about to say Fireflies flamethrower. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
now great thing. If you think of anything else, text us.
Oh man, now I'm just really interested to see how Firefly show up in the show, especially like it really play up the pyromania aspect. Um, it was interesting for Catwoman is just like how good she is at stealing stuff. that you don't even see her just like reach her in and just grab items. Like she just walks by and just eyes magically disappear, and just end up on her body.
That is the
Like
fun of
the
playing like kind of the comedy with Catwoman. Yeah, she just does
yeah,
not. She's kind of like gliding through the show like an uptight like a snooty feline. It's like just taking everything.
yeah.
So let's see. So okay, lastly, we do have like the Riddler was on the loose this episode. Doctor Psycho and him kind of mixing it up, and again, kind of like setting up that you think they're really kind of like really antagonistic towards each other, and they may have initially been, but they got a lot in common. That's gonna pay off later.
Yeah. I love the cyborg accidentally shooting a tranquilizer at Dr. Psycho. It's like, you rat bastard. His scope is just not well lit, or he's just not seeing properly to notice Dr. Psycho.
And you have like the running gag of the Babysitters Club. It's pretty funny. Yes. Okay. So let's transition to episode 4.
Ooh, the thawing hearts.
Okay, this is one of the really great ones. I loved the Thawing Hearts episode because this one we do get kind of a mix of there's a lot of dark comedy, but there's also some legit pathos, and I dig that.
Right on the bat, love the meet cute between Victor and Nora being "You Got Mail."
Yeah, yeah. As I'd say, my biggest fascination with any Mister Freeze story, the thing we never do anything with, and I know we still didn't quite do it here. We just did it kind of in dialogue, but I really want to see like the biggest missed opportunity of Mister Freeze is seeing how he met Nora. That's the thing. I want to see like that relationship before it went on ice. I want to see like the married life montage of Victor and Nora. That's what I want.
Honestly, that's sort of the thing I really appreciated for Spectacular Spider-Man. The show is like you get to see like the villains before they turn into villains,
Exactly. Yeah.
sidekicks kind of characters. I
Hmm.
would love it for a Batman show to have that approach for the villains, and you have like you know how we had like Doctor Connors at the beginning.
Hmm.
Eventually, after a while, he goes into like killer like the Lizard. Have like Mister Freeze and like Nora like be a couple, on the sides, have their story. She gets ill, then Victor turns to Mister Freeze. But no, like I love like how dangerous but also quirky Mister Freeze is, especially with the whole like lunch.
Okay. You know what my favorite thing about that whole dinner thing was?
What?
Okay, so when George Sanders, they had as you know, I think everyone knows it. We had 3 actors playing Mister Freeze in the '60s Batman show. And honestly, in my opinion, none of them ever topped George Sanders. I think played him in the first time, and then they went to I forget if it was I think it was Eli Wallach and then Preminger, but whatever. Point being, George Sanders was like the coolest of the Mister Freezes. He's basically kind of like he had kind of a Bond villain motif of the '60s. What he did is he Batman and Robin. He had this whole setup where he could be out of the freeze suit in this cold lair where there'd be like these little heated floor lamps. So basically, Batman and Robin were like eating dinner with him or eating like a meal with him at the table. So I like to think that's a reference to this
Was
for
he
Mr. Freeze
was he
seeing.
wearing like a nightgown or something?
Yeah, he's like wearing a robe or something. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so that's where like Mr. So that's where like Schumacher got like the
yeah.
whole like Mr. Oh, okay, that's cool. I didn't know that. I've known.
Exactly.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, so, which was always like a great again the idea of like again George basically the charm of George Sanders and just the idea that kind of almost like a Bond villain sort of lair thing and the idea of just showing pleasantries to his to
I
his
mean, it,
enemies.
it makes sense to go with that approach because it's always the trope about the mad scientist villain. So in this case, like Mr.
Like a
Freeze,
Doctor Moreau sort of thing, or
yeah, yeah, or
yeah,
Doctor No to be more apt.
it's fair. Yeah, it's a good point. So so I think I've always loved when villains do pleasantries and the fact like again the idea we show Mister Freeze is not really like like, again he funds his research through organized crime as he establishes, but he's not a bad guy. He's not out there really like be rude or anything. He's just and the fact that he saved Harley when like Harley thinks like you froze me, you're like the top of the cinder here, man. So it's like no, they wanted to kill you. I knew they'd want to kind of like use you as an object, because they're cyst white males or
Humiliation,
whatnot.
mockery, yeah.
I just love the whole. I just love the fact. I think King Shark summed it up best, right? You just, basically, you just you did something terrible to the most woke ice themed villain ever.
You just insulted, yeah, is what. But yeah, it's hilarious. Like for Mr. Freeze to like, I mean, it's sort of that's why he really stands out from the other Gotham villains in Justice League is like he does crime, but he's only doing it just to take care of his wife. Like all the other people are just straight up criminals and murderers. That just want to live in that life of crime.
Now, I got to admit, one issue I did have that I do think may have been maybe just a little bit to sell a gag versus practicality is I'll go with like the gag of like, okay, Mr. Freeze, like he just creepily wants him to this because he can't taste food. He wants him to describe how it feels. Like that's one thing that's fine,
Mhm.
but I don't buy that he like has like a little funnel carved into the ice with Nora. I don't buy that. Come on.
Wait, what do you not buy specific? Is it just the logistics of it,
No
or
logistics. I don't buy that. Is he's gonna like a little hole so she can like so you can pour like food down there for her like while she's in this terrified like state.
yeah, that's actually. I guess it's like I guess it's not like she needs food so much as like how certain people would say like someone that's in a vegetative state or someone that's like obviously not alive but is treated alive in a
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, that exactly. Just felt a little off to me, like just the way he's doing that.
Yeah, I feel like that was there just to sort of add to like Harley's suspicions.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I think it was just maybe like a little too mustache twirly for the purposes of we need Harley to jump to a conclusion here. I don't know,
Yeah,
but yeah,
I do love the mouthfeel gag. It's like and Dr. Psycho's like juicy. It's like yum
butter.
buttery. Yeah.
God, that was
I
funny.
wonder if they got that from when the Doom Patrol showed up in Titans.
I don't know.
No, because like because I remember like Robot Man is like just specifically like asking Beast Garth or Raven to like describe the taste of food. So I wonder if that was something that was like, oh, that would be funny for a gag. Um, and at the end, if we just could talk about the end,
Yeah, yeah, sure, yeah.
the music and just the overall like just emotions for when Mr. Freeze makes a sacrifice was just
So
really
this episode is a really big turning point. I'll hand it back to you in one second. I just want to say that yeah, this is a this episode is a really big turning point for the season. This is where we shift from revenge to the love story ultimately for Harley, where she sees like the true love at play here.
mhm.
Yeah, which that
And
sacrifice scene really does. Yeah,
yeah, I think someone made the I think someone made a comment a while back when they were talking about this episode or the season was like, it is a little odd for Mr. Freeze just to randomly die from a blood transfusion. Like it's I think the process, the way it's described, like, oh, his blood will turn to Nora's blood.
yeah, exactly. Basically, it'll turn to her blood type, and then the process would kill him. I'm gonna guess it's sort of like a thing of like, you know how but mind you, I'm not a doctor or anything here. I always heard like if you give someone the wrong blood, something really bad happens to the blood. I'm gonna assume
Well,
it's
I
kind of like
understand,
that.
like, say, organ donations, like, where certain organ donations fail, and that's why you have to make sure you have good matches.
Yeah.
But I don't know, but it's like, unless if like Mr. Freeze has to give all his blood to Nora, or maybe actually, or maybe it's like the process. No, you know what I
Well,
think?
I think
Maybe,
it's the sudden change. I think that's what's doing it. Like your whole
well,
genetic structure is changing.
I think it was because we remember the whole thing about like, oh, consumption of like cooked meats like increases his heat temperature, leads to his death.
Yeah.
So maybe so maybe if like since Nora is not like like permanently cryogenically, like stasis, her body's just a normal human body. It's in a cryogenic chamber. When it's just defrosted, it's a normal body. Like turning Mister Freeze's blood to Nora's blood, maybe like I don't know the science works out, like increases his heat temperature, and
I mean,
that
that makes sense. The fact that like, we're kind of heating him, which probably would kill him. So
yeah.
yeah. But then again, but the threat was established; it would kill anyone who took it. So it's not exactly tailored to Mister Freeze. That kind of shoots that theory down.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's just like we're changing like blood types, and maybe that's just kind of an adverse effect on the whole. I don't know. The point being, it's life saving science.
Mhm.
That's okay. Anyway, so also Ivy and Kite Man, they were scouting their wedding venue. By the way, the venue guy was also voiced by Alfred Molina. A lot of double duty here. It's of course Alan Tudyk as well. He plays, I believe, Condiment King. So we do Condiment King.
I love Condiment King being Kite Man's personal nemesis.
You know, it's funny because Condiment King has developed such a following because he is like the most ridiculous Batman film. But everyone forgets that Condiment King created for the animated series. And Condiment King, not he's really just not even a villain. He's like not like a regular villain or anything. He just kind of became that way just when he keeps showing up. But he's just kind of he was a fake villain that the Joker created. Everyone kind of forgets that, but I love we literally went with the model of that Condiment King here and everything. Only we kind of made him shorter and fatter.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're right though. It's the fact we took the two most ridiculous Batman villains and made them enemies, and they treat each other like.
I'm just waiting for when the show brings in like Crazy Quilt Man and no, sorry, Crazy Quilt, Polka Dot Man, and Clock King into the fold.
Yeah, I think Clock King might have had a cameo later, but yeah, I think he's in the pit later. I think, but I don't know. Well, you're right though. Crazy Quilt was definitely the next one in line. Oh, for sure. Also, Eraser. I want to see Eraser. Eraser always had a cool costume. Anyway, sorry. Let's see. So point being, Ivy, they kind of to save Harley's bacon, they sacrifice their wedding venue, which is set up for the finale, the corn factory venue, like the corn mill, and the whole reason that Kite Man wants is this is where Clint Howard's nuptials were. Just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's very, very Kite Man of him to have that as the reason for the choice of wedding venue.
So at the end of the episode, Harley Quinn, she achieves her goal in a very bittersweet way. She's
Mhm.
killed poor Mr. Freeze, but basically it's kind of like again, Mr. Freeze's death does usher in kind of like a big revelation in her eyes.
Mhm.
On some level that okay, maybe her relationship was not true love and she really is kind of alone and really kind of feeling it and looking to fill a void, which eventually she will with something
Mhm.
green. So that
Oh, I
brings
love
us yeah.
just the one final thing. Love Clayface's comment. It's like Joker breaking Harley's art was the worst thing that Joker's done, and it's just like, oh man. And in light of what we know about Joker, like in the flashback episode, like God, I love Clayface, but man, what a dramatic melodramatic character for him.
Yeah, oh for sure. Also, I love the fact he could escape at any time. In the ice and everything. He's literally just gonna walk out to get some more food. He's
Yeah.
walked back. Okay, episode 5. Batman's back, man.
Love the opening for this
It's
episode.
probably the best framing device that we did have.
And man, in light of the two shirts that the gentlemen are wearing, and one of them already happening, I don't know. I'm hoping for the for what's in the second shirt to not happen.
Do you remember what I forget what the second shirt was? I
The
know that
Last
was
Jedi is not canon.
right. Okay, it was. I knew it was the Last Jedi. I forget what it said about the Last Jedi. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, so basically what we have here is an addressment of kind of like the fanboys and pretty much people like, hey, it's been many years. I want a new Batman show, and we're getting a Harley Quinn show, and Batman barely factors into it. And just in general, anyone who's just kind of like been kind of poo-pooing the Harley Quinn show, which I really don't think is many people. But basically, the idea is they're covering their basis for any objections people might have, and the fact they've taken a very different take with things here, and they've kind of really it's like, how do we? We had this situation where how do we take Batman out of season 2 for a while, and we've done that, and we have a fun episode that basically, that basically calls out, the critics and fills in the Batman blanks all in one episode in a really cool way. So it was rather ingenious in making fun of. I don't always throw out this word like cavalierly, but we're making fun of the legit like kind of toxic fan base thing. The people are just like really just kind of like not again, they're kind of saying, kind of spewing vitriol before they're really thinking, giving things a shot. And it's like, it's before any contemplation or discussions happening. I love the dynamic there is they have the more innocent guy, and you have like the I've made up my mind before watching it, that guy.
Love the opening for him. It's like you're clearly an idiot for thinking that Gandalf can just drop the rings off into Mordor, just by himself. And I clearly made that argument. The LOTR subreddit. It's like God, these writers just have such a good grasp of like satire and just taking like the piss off of like just certain groups. It's great.
Yeah. The line that cracked me up that hit me where I lived was the whole like, "Well, if this sucks, we're watching Family Guy," which that to me is like the perfect line because yeah, Family Guy to after a certain season of Family Guy, it completely well, roughly season 6, but point being, after Family Guy at a certain point, it's like today, current day Family Guy, it crushes my soul like you wouldn't imagine. I used to love Family Guy. But then
it,
Seth
it's
MacFarlane essentially left the show. I mean, he does the voices, but he's no longer creatively involved. And even he himself has said yeah, I won't cancel it because we came back from cancellation, so I'm not going to be the one to end it. So it's going to be up to the networks, and sadly, the networks have not canceled it yet.
Yeah, I remember a friend of mine made this point. It's like there's certain shows on TV now that are zombie shows
Hmm.
in the sense that like they're just been going on for like several seasons, and you just don't hear people talk about it, but they're still just like on TV. Like
Yeah.
this South Park to a certain extent. It's Always Sunny, American Dad. Really a lot of comedies and like
Well,
maybe
it's always sunny is in good shape. That's the difference. But
I guess I guess I just think it's more often comedies that like just last for like several seasons. I mean, there'll be a few dramas like Grey's Anatomy is like what in like the lower to mid 20s in terms of number of seasons.
I have no idea, but probably a large number. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or anyway, okay, so let's see. So Bruce Wayne, we have again. So we have our self-aware take on Batman's stubbornness here, which is really funny. And again, it's kind of like the funniest. Again, this has been probably, given the fact that Bane is also in the episode, we're taking some shots at Dark Knight Rises a little bit here, and just kind of in general, like the nightfall of it all,
Hmm.
and kind of a fun pairing with No Man's Land in terms of our setting as well.
Yeah.
And the fact that Batman, I love that Diedrich Bader is such a perfect choice to play Batman because obviously he's very seasoned in playing, him and Batman Brave and the Bold, doing an excellent job with it. But because of that, we have a guy who's playing Batman very kind of rather deadpan.
Hmm.
But in this case, we're playing Batman who's a little more, who again, it is that Batman, but we're allowing him to get a little bit more snarky and just a little bit more just like a Batman who's kind of seen it all and he's just kind of like maybe he's a little tired of it all the times. It's just like
He's a little bit more he's more visibly, not emotional, but you can definitely tell like Batman's mood just on the look and just on
it's
his
a heightened Batman of
yeah,
sorts.
it's a
It's a,
much
it's a
more
heightened
it's a much more like caricature.
satirical
I mean
maybe is
caricature. I think he's like there. The thing what I appreciate for Harley Quinn is that like all the DC characters are certainly heightened for comedic effect, but they're still the essence of like who they are.
like the big difference for me. I think the big distinctive thing that separates this from other things. I think they're walking the perfect line with here is that they are heightened. They are a little more played for comedy, and we're getting some good comedy out of them.
Mhm.
But it's not Teen Titans Go. It's not like there's different characters wearing the same skin or costumes that those characters are associated with. Where we're not going off focus there. Where it's like, hey, they're like I can buy this as a take on Batman, just kind of a more like kind of a Batman's getting away with snarkier, funnier lines. You know,
It is a little bit more self-absorbed than typical Batman.
that's what I'm saying. It's a little bit, but by the same token, this is still a Batman who does like he does care about his city, and he's like but we're also heightening it like there's like a random kid showing up at the big side of the battle, like dropping his Batman figure when he's lost hope and he picks up a
And
Tommy gun. Like we're pushing it a little bit.
the actual term is Chicago typewriter.
Yep. Yep. God, that
Lo-
Chicago typewriter gag was really
love
funny.
the payoff of that gag. It's like, oh, they do sound like typewriters.
That is funny. Anyway, let's see. So yeah, the point being, we see Batman, the classic Batman stubbornness, and we kind of call out real world recovery time that Rises did not. In that we again that's the thing we demystify Batman in the Harley Quinn show. Where he's in character, but again he's basically he's more passive aggressive with Alfred and stuff. He has this passive aggressive dynamic with Alfred, which is really funny.
He's very much like a pouty child.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense though, because Batman to a degree, I'm sure all the psychologists in the room would probably agree. Like, there's a stunted man child in there somewhere, but you know
A bit
he's
of
very much
Arrested Development.
yeah, for sure, yeah, which fits the tone.
Yeah.
So Alfred is basically having like a tough love approach dealing with his stubborn child here with a sardonic edge and wit, which
Do
it's very similar to the Lego Batman movie. Did you feel that?
Yes, but I feel like the Lego Batman Alfred in that would not be as like cutting and
Vocal.
just like giving as good as they can take as say Harley Quinn Alfred.
Yeah.
I love Bruce's like Alfred's comments like, "Well, I served in the Her Majesty's Royal Navy." It's like, and Bruce is like, "Well, what'd you fight over? Who gets the last scone?" And it's
Yeah.
like, "Yes, sometimes."
Well, let's see. So speaking of kind of duos, we have Bane and Two Face working together. Given that Batman seemingly is back, we gave Bane his chair to kind of sweeten the deal. And the idea Two Face is really a manipulator in this in the Harley Quinn version. Now we fully do kind of like a Two Face here, and he's you know, he and they're teaming up against Batman. We have like the whole Two Faces like poster running gag where basically Two Face absolutely is trying to hide, like he's ashamed of Bane and everything. He's just like, no, no, you're the Shadow. Don't you see it? You're the Shadow, and those are the Two Faces. And this
That's
Batman
too
calls
much
him
of
out.
a thinker. I don't think people would know.
I knew it was a thing, guys. He's Bane working out his own frustrations while he's kicking the crap out of Batman. Just, it's really funny. So he breaks the bat brutally, by the way. Put Batman in kind of a Nightfall esque kind of mech suit, in kind of an exo suit
Well,
of sorts,
it's
very
the
John Paul
Hellbat.
Valley esque. Yeah, the Hell. Oh, yeah, it's kind of a Hellbat mix. It's like there's shades of John Paul Valley. You're right, though. It's absolutely Hellbat suit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, Hellbat basically when he went to Apocalypse to save, well, essentially save Damien, but we won't get
To
into all that.
resurrect Damien.
Yeah, yeah, it's a whole thing. So, but yeah, so again, it's kind of a mixing of things. It's quite nice. I love Alfred having to lug it up the Batcave stairs because the elevator was broken. Let's see. I um I love this, and this is what I'm talking about. There's the line that would kind of strike just right here, where Batman, we're not doing a thing. It would have been out of character. Batman was just like jealous of Batgirl. I love that it wasn't that. I love that it was Batman had a really very real concern that, and if that girl is wearing that symbol, and if that girl dies, Gotham will lose all hope. But I love like the severity of that. I like that amidst the comedy, there was some severity there. There is some concern, and it's like again, we're balancing things quite well.
Although there is a little bit of jealousy, though.
Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah, a little bit. I think here's the thing. I read less as jealousy. I read more as frustration. Where like she's a very social media. I think it's more of like kind of a generational disdain of like she's posting like you have a million followers and everything, and it's being posted, and that Batman has to be forced to come back, which does not
Well,
go
no,
well.
because this comment is like, are most of them bots? So
Yeah,
like that's sort of a bit of like to undercut like Batgirl's popularity. So I think either in some sense he is jealous of like the level of adulation he gets, especially with how he feels about macaroni.
yeah. The whole the macaronis. This basically Alfred, and this is based on like this is a deep cut too. I think it's a reference to a little bit to the Neil Gaiman. The Neil Game, whatever happened to the Cape Crusader thing, where Alfred had it was kind of a speculated like these like kind of like a non-canon story. It's like a whole bunch of like heady interpretations of Batman. Where like, what if Alfred was played the Joker and played other Batman villains to basically
Hmm.
give him someone to fight to take him out of his funk and give him a purpose. So
Hmm.
just the idea of like Alfred going out there as like kind of a vigilante to help pick up the slack is quite funny.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Would have
so
loved, would have loved that Lucius Fox came out to do vigilante stuff as well, like be in
yeah,
a very tech suit.
that would have been funny. Let's see. Okay, so lastly, I want to mention this because one of the thing that cracked me because I love the Batman Gordon rooftop scenes. So I
Hmm.
love this hysterical idea of the injured rooftop scene where it's just utterly priceless that Batman is sitting in a chair
Hmm.
and Gordon is like, "But you never sit. I sit sometimes." It's just and basically endorsing Batgirl the Jim Gordon. That's really nice. And also Gordon's like ridiculous codpiece missile idea came in handy
Yeah.
during the Bane fights. It's really funny. Anywho, so yeah, that's that episode. That brings us to 6.
Hmm.
All the best inmates have daddy issues. And this is a really good episode, right?
Yeah, it's they're I'll talk more. There's certain scene I want to talk about and the implications of it. So let's. I love the idea of Joker being rendered sane. Like that's certainly an idea that's found in the comics. So seeing that in this show was hilarious.
Yeah, which of course now it's an idea we're really bringing back in vogue a lot with the White Knight comic, which has been really good. Because before it was like done very sparingly. Man, we only did a sane Joker so sparingly in the comics, and when it happened, it was really creepy. Like I think that if it was Denny O'Neil who wrote the Going Sane story or not, but there was like
That
one story.
it was J.M. DeMatteis.
Oh, it was the yeah, was Demantis or DeMatteis?
J.M.
Uh,
DeMatteis.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, DeMatteis. So yeah, he.
Hey folks, it's me, Jacob. I'm running stuff behind the scenes. Sorry to randomly interrupt.
Yeah, I've met him. Seriously, he's a cool guy, DeMatteis. But yeah, he did he also did the Justice League Gods and Monsters comics, which were really excellent.
yeah.
Also, Craven's Last Hunt.
Oh yeah, I forgot about it. Yeah, did Craven's Leads. Yeah, he's excellent. So point being, we've done Joker going insane selectively. So here it's like, okay, the class thing. We're Joker, of course, Joker's not going to die, and we did show like the hand coming up, and we knew he was going to be a little human, and it was a big deal. And yeah, he's back as a bartender, a very friendly Alan Tudyk bartender who's a suburban dad, which I don't think any of us saw coming.
Yeah, who's like very like corny dad.
Yeah,
Even though he's not like an actual father, but like he would be the one to make corny dad jokes or laugh at corny dad jokes.
yeah. So yeah, he's very much kind of has like he's kind of he has amnesia post season one. It's kind of funny that we gave like Batman the coma and we gave him the amnesia.
Mm-hmm.
So Harley and Ivy, they're kind of debating if people can change, which again, big thematic thing of the season. One could say, which I mean was also a big thematic crux of the first season about like kind of like transitioning and kind of evolving from who you were.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like if this like do we give this Joker a second chance or do we just kill him? Which then leads to the flashback. Ultimately, the moral being Ivy changed, so it's possible. But we have our basically our flashback to the equivalent of Mad Love here, which but again interesting take where it's mad love, but clearly not real. Ultimately, not about Joker and Harley. It's really about Harley and Ivy, which is kind of the hat trick of the season to a degree.
Yeah.
Like you're going in thinking, okay, it's going to be the usual Harley stuff, but no, we're going the Harley Ivy route this season.
Love just like how like dude bro Jim Gordon and Harvey Dent are in the flashback.
Yeah, because back when Harvey was kind of on the side of angels, but still, it was more of a corrupt prick. But yeah,
No, like Harvey Dent in this, and surprisingly in Stefan Subject's Harley Quinn graphic novel or OGN, like is portrayed as like a sleazy politician, which is interesting because usually for the most part, whenever you would see Harvey Dent like portrayed in flashback, whether in comics or other media, like he's portrayed as either mostly a good guy who just like through one incident becomes like split in half, or he's a good guy with like a deep dark side that he tries to keep buried and persist against his demons. Yet in this, he's just like the absolute sleaziest, scummiest politician that's just obsessed with getting elected in office. Love his slip ups on voters.
yeah. Oh yeah, it was really funny. Yeah. And let's see. So we have okay. So we see Ivy kind of her most detached from humanity when Harleen kind of walks by her cell there. She's like the pure plant lady until Harleen, Dr. Quinzel, shows her kind of some shades of compassion. Shows her compassion for the first time, gives her a little plant gift, which obviously comes in handy.
What was funny is that in the flashback, both Ivy and Joker just have like messed up hair and like running makeup.
Yeah, they were very much kind of going for a little bit of a ledger take on with the kind of a ledgery look with kind of this Joker in the past.
Oh, I was honestly I was thinking the funny theory is that like considering how Joker ripped off like Ivy's story from group therapy,
Yeah.
Joker's just ripping off like Ivy's look.
I mean, maybe, but maybe. It's possible. I don't know. I didn't read into that too much, but you're not wrong. It's a good point that yeah, he did rip off her story. Kind of played with the mad love angle
Well,
Joker making up the
because like,
stories, but
because like Harley mentions as a side that like, oh, Ivy or like Joker borrows or takes like Harley's like lipstick or makeup
yeah,
rather than buying his own makeup.
that's a good point. Yeah, now thinking about it when you bring that up, yeah, it's possible he probably took her look as well. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, obviously, again, I think we're hitting like all the traditional beats well with Joker and Harley and doing kind of their kind of abusive dance when they're like like he almost like he threatens to kill her with the pen. They like we see kind of her acrobatic skills that we saw in the first season and her other flashback episode. It's kind of funny. Each season gives us a flashback episode. I wonder if they're going to keep that up.
Mhm.
Um, we had that at play here, and and kind of seeing their dynamic kind of forge. And but again, it was quite the hat trick in which we pulled off there, and we're using. See, I got to tell you, man, my wish fulfillment is kind of what we had here, where I've always the Harley I've always wanted to see, like a, kind of like a disconnected take from Batman. Like if you're ever gonna like kind of relaunch things in a sense, or you're gonna do like a kind of a ground up take on a Batman, I love on the Batman status quo or like how we kind of work things. I've always wanted to see Harleen kind of like a Harvey Dent figure in Arkham. Like she like if Harvey Dent's the guy kind of working is their kind of like their pillar of kind of legal system, and you have the police with Gordon, and obviously Batman the vigilantism. Harleen would be
The
perhaps a
store,
way of
the store psychologist or like the chief of staff at Arkham.
yeah,
Like,
it's like and now they've introduced her into the comics recently, but before that, I was thinking like it's like what if we had a version of Chase Meridian that actually worked, and we made her important and made her kind of a tragedy with Harleen Quinzel, where ultimately she would, kind of fall, she would in helping Batman, she fell to the side of the Joker, and that would be like another thing Joker took away from Batman. That's kind of
and but also like it'd be interesting to have that kind of like stature and position for Harley,
Mhm.
and but not have her be like, but have her Harley Quinn persona be more like the Telltale version of Harley Quinn.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah, a little Telltale esque, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So ultimately, I'm not saying we full on did that here, but it's the idea that she was kind of working with Batman, Gordon, and Dent to kind of like kind of basically get in the Joker's head, kind of Silence of the Lambs style, which is is a good call.
yeah. Also, a big point of lore and continuity in this is that like in this flashback, like Joker's already killed Jason Todd.
Yeah, we did establish that when Batman was beating the crap out of him, kind of
He
like
was
the
okay.
Nolan one.
The thing I found weird was him saying that, like as being beaten by Batman in like a glass cell with Jim Gordon, Harvey Dent, and Harley Quinn observing, and and they can hear that. They can hear all that's what's going on.
That's true, but if Batman, look, I don't want to speculate here. He's obviously it's kind of a throwaway bit, but I think the logic probably is that Jason Todd was like a street kid, probably not taken in officially by Bruce Wayne. Maybe that's what it was. So it doesn't
Mhm.
really matter if he calls it up. But again, these are semantics. They're just kind of like whenever we're going to address it again. I'm sure.
Or maybe it's like when we hear Jason Todd, it's like from the perspective of Bruce,
Hmm.
Batman in the cell, and like what you're hearing outside the cell is maybe a little bit more muffled.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it could
Yeah.
be could be that as well. Anyways, of course, we have like the Little Italy thing. My favorite gag though is that Gordon is like in the Batmobile, but he can't sit in the front seat.
Well, considering there's also it's a bit of a sad connotation because if Jason's died recently,
Mm,
like probably
I didn't think of that. I just, oh my God, Rohit, that's brilliant. Yeah, he just does not. That's really nice. Again, we kind of milk some pathos from the comedy. It's really nice.
yeah,
Yeah, it's good. Of course, I love the Batman Gordon friends. I love Gordon's friends. So, what are you doing for the weekend? That's that kind of stuff.
like after stopping the Joker.
Yeah, after stopping the Joker. Yeah. So, anyways, we blow up Little Italy, and then we have kind of a moment where again it seems like Joker's using Harleen to escape, where ultimately that's it's, Ivy kind of saves her bacon there from Dent kind of almost killing her. And yeah, Doctor Psycho kind of comes in, he checks Joker's mind, he says, "Nope, just there's no, just there's nothing, no Joker in there. He's just a suburban dad and everything." And then he's like laughing at like a joke that his kids sent him, and oh god, there's some Joker in there. Bum bum
Yeah.
bum.
But what was a really like sad moment. It was sad in a good way. Was like Ivy mentioning about like she lost her faith or she stopped caring about people after she first got hit by her dad.
Yeah, which we did see the abusive father a little bit in the last season. So yeah.
Yeah, but what's interesting is like all the best inmates have daddy issues. It's like
Hmm.
both Ivy and Harley have significant issues with the fathers in their lives. For Ivy, abuse, and for Harley, just her dad just being not even well. I guess you could say he's a deadbeat, but just like a guy that just doesn't prioritize taking care of his family beyond just like with his gambling debts and
He's a
all.
deadbeat and he's a manipulator. He's
Yeah.
pretty terrible.
Hmm.
Okay. So let's see. That brings us to so they get caught by Two Face, and that brings us to episode 7, which is "There's no place to go but down." It's kind of the opposite of that Mary Poppins Return song.
Hmm.
All right, so Harley, they basically, long story short, here is, as Harley is trying to escape a pit, Jim Gordon's escaping the pit of alcoholism. That's kind of the two. It's kind of a A story, B story on this one.
Yeah.
So there's a very BoJack kind of horseman aspect, kind of at play here with the whole emotional kind of pits here and about kind of the again kind of an episode about healing on many fronts, both in kind of like
It's
the yeah.
Yeah, like it's very existentialist, like the
Yeah,
whole Ivy monologue at the end.
that's what I'm saying. Ivy's monologue felt very on brand with BoJack, and obviously there's a little bit of alcoholism, and that is a kind of a BoJack aspect to this episode. I really appreciated.
When you say BoJack Horseman, thought you were gonna mention about like Man Bat being the lawyer.
That too, that felt a little BoJack as well.
Oh man, I love the gag. It would have been hilarious if like Two Face was the defense, and he was and he was Harvey Dent, and was legitimately doing a good job, and then he just flipping the coin back and forth of what like legal strategies or things you do between Two Face and Harvey Dent.
Yeah, which I believe happened in No Man's Land, didn't it, with Jim Gordon on trial?
Yeah, yeah, that would have been hilarious to do that.
It would have been, but I don't know. I think it might have. I don't know. I may have lost people with the fact that we really have not played this Two Face like a
The
lawyer at all.
like like split personality or dissociative identity, aspect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's that whole thing. We just kind of played him as like the sleazy politician who now is a scarred up face. That's kind of the way it kind of
yeah.
went.
The Two Face is just like him being, duplicitous rather than like having two actual personalities. But yeah, or it would have been interesting to see like an obscure, well, I don't know, obscure, like maybe have like that one DA from Dark Victory, Jessica Porter, or
Yeah,
maybe Kate Spencer.
Janice Porter, I think.
Yeah, Janice Porter or Kate Spencer.
Right, or of course like Janet Van Dorn or something. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
anyway, let's see. So the point being, they go on trial and they end up in the being sentenced to the pit from Rises, which essentially Two Face was trying to placate Bane after he caught on to the whole Two Faces thing. He says, "I'm going to give you your own space," which is mine. I love how he gets emotional. He gets where Two Face is pulling a con job on him here, like you get this big hole in the ground, and he basically turns into like Penadoro North, where he's kind of turned. I love this though, Bane. This Bane, far more pleasant than any Bane you've ever seen before. He's actually turned into a place of healing, where it's actually a place that people are actually going to get the help they need versus what they would in Arkham.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we have like Zaz and Croc, and also we have Cheryl in there as a guard.
Yeah.
Yeah, which brings it back to the again kind of the arc in season 2, where she was a guard in Arkham, and then a cop, and now she's a guard, and then this Penadoro Arkham.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Of course, Ivy's stand up again. That's where it's kind of a fusion of BoJack and the marvelous Mrs. Maisel to a degree with her. And I love that Lake Bell. Lake Bell's really funny. People don't give her enough credit for that. I love that we kind of play like a mixture of bad comedy followed by the emotional catharsis. So that was really well handled by her.
You watched Children's Hospital, Blue Dragon?
No, but I saw this movie she was in that was really good. It was called like the God. It was based on the voice act. Yeah, In a World. Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, she was good. She was good in that one. Ken Marino, and that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I love Ken Marino. He's so great.
Yeah. What was interesting is just the random celebrity cameos. With this one being just George Lopez, just randomly, it's like the stand up act for. Well, I guess sort of the thing is that what's not really emphasized a lot in other media is that like Bane is Latino. He's like
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
yeah, so maybe that was like Bane's personal choice on like getting a comedian like that to show up, but um lo- love the hats that Killer Croc made.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. On the flip side of things, because we kind of rallied the inmates into a ride, and, like Victor Zaz is all like pro, like, come on guys, we can think of a constructive solution. If you don't help it, I'm gonna stab you.
I will say the one thing that I was like, oh, that like I was like, oh, come on, you could do a little bit better. It's like how easily Harley Quinn overpowered Cheryl. That was like on, like it was amped up on Venom. It's like
Well,
okay, I feel
well,
like
you know
they're
what she was gonna do, but she didn't.
what
My hope was that she was just gonna press the Venom button until she blew up.
like the Hulk and What If.
I mean, pretty much, yeah, but much bloodier. But yeah, just it's like hitting the button and just like pumping her up until like basically either gave her an overdose or literally blew her up.
It would have been hilarious if like Harley like talked her way out of like Cheryl holding her captive.
Yeah, because Cheryl was just like unhinged and crazy looking. So yeah. Anyway, so flip side of things. So let's see. So Gordon and Batgirl, they had they had kind of a moment here where basically she kind of helps. So Barbara and after this rat catcher thing does not go well. They tried doing a sting operation on. They tried catching the rat catcher and not the female rat cat, not rat catcher 2 for the kids out there, because that's the rat catcher they're thinking of, the original one. So Barbara kind of inspires her father to sober up and take back the GCPD, and they take down Two-Face kind of Die Hard style, kind of.
Although you're saying like for the kids, it's Ratcatcher 1, even though when this episode came out, it came out what April 2020.
Yeah, it came out way before.
Well, and the Suicide Squad came out August of 2021, so it's
Yeah.
not really that big of a. But the thing is, it's like if you wouldn't know about Ratcatcher 1, just being his own thing, you wouldn't get that. But I it was great dramatic moments for Gordon. Specifically the part where like he goes to open the cabinet of all the alcohol and just like, are you gonna help? And Barbara's like, oh, don't drink. It's like, well, is Batgirl too cool in helping me drown these bottles out? And it's like, all right, and go through a montage where we skip the hard parts of overcoming alcohol.
See, that's the most BoJack Horseman gag of the whole thing. Just like let's do a montage where we skip past the hard parts, and it was just really funny.
And get to the part where I'm clean.
Yeah, and it worked out. So, okay, let's see. And then lastly, a big moment of catharsis here, where again, Harley learning that lesson from the Mister Freeze episode. She sacrifices herself so Ivy can escape. Like releases as Bane like did the jump as they were kind of like escaping via the vines,
Mhm.
and yeah, so Ivy, she kind of went back down, saved Harley, and then they had their big kiss, which this is a very big moment. We started the whole Harley Ivy relationship, which has always been kind of like flirting around on again, off again. We went full tilt with it, so yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That brings us to episode 8, Inner Para Demons. So, let's see. I guess okay. So basically, the way to sum this one up here is Sorry. So basically, Harley's unable. She's overcompensating by not being able to, because she's not able to tell Ivy her feelings and basically comment on like, okay, we kind of felt something with that kiss. Perhaps we should reevaluate your relationship with Kite Man and everything. And essentially, Gordon's coming after her to basically the idea being like, hey, we won't make Gotham sovereign or anything. We'll welcome it back into the fold of the United States and everything if you can get rid of Harley Quinn. So basically Gordon's trying to take down Harley Quinn, and she overcomes. It's big time like, I need an army. Thanks for the idea, Batgirl. And she goes for an army of parademons, which is just rife disaster in the making.
I love the Harley Quinn gag. It's like, oh, I'm impetuous. I'm crazy. I kiss people.
Yeah, this whole running gag.
Yeah, and then Dr. Psycho, like near the end of it, it's like, you made that very clear, Harley.
Yeah. Oh well, when she kisses King Shark, and he's he's just he's bashful and
Blushes.
everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's adorable. So let's see. So Ivy essentially she's kind of trying to refocus on Kite Man here, and she's meeting with his parents, and we learn that Kite Man's parents they had powers apparently.
Yeah, I feel like that was just a show thing, just to drive home the point about,
Oh
like,
no, it was completely for the show. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just kind of basically Ivy kind of standing up to the parents and everything. I think Kite Man was very, very much on her side, and it was nice. And again, he's kind of teeing up maybe like a seed of doubt as well, in which Kite Man having a future kind of mapped out for, and the parents had a more specific future mapped out for. But again, Kite Man not being pushy about that future, very
Mhm.
importantly. So point being, Ivy's dealing with that as Harley, as they're trying to go their separate ways. That just leads to Harley getting into big trouble here. So basically Harley Quinn's overcompensating with her villainy from the first season, which she's really gotten past really this season. And Batgirl called this out. So she goes to Apocalypse. I love how she goes to Apocalypse, by the way, because she has to get a mother box. And Rohit, how does she get that mother box?
She goes into the to like the back room from Mr. Miracle and just takes it. And you assume that, like, oh, she beats up Mr. Miracle and just steals it from him. But she already got it. She just like to beat it up on Mr. Miracle.
Yeah, you think they're gonna do like a whole heist on Mr. Miracle backstage, but no, it's like he's right now he's in the middle of a trick. Harley doesn't have time to waste. He just walks up, hits him with a bat, and just takes it.
I would love for an episode season 3 where Big Barda shows up to take revenge on
Oh, that'd be nice. Yeah, that'd be great. Let's see. Okay, so again, Doctor Psycho's aspirations for for villainy with his Napoleon complex, obviously, going basically his goals of going too big, which ultimately he does. We go to Apocalypse and we strike a bargain with good old Darkseid. Not just Darkseid. This is the Michael Ironside
yeah.
Darkseid, which was amazing that we got him. We got him to say really silly things.
I love him just psychoanalyzing Harley Quinn.
I know, I love it. I love that. Like, also the monologue, and like Dark's just kind of monologuing every time she tries to answer him. It just keeps going on. It's really funny. And some holes not even an army of parademons can fill. It's great. So let's see. So we have Granny Goodness, and you basically take out Granny Goodness, and you get your army. And with Doctor Psycho's help, she does. And yeah, it's just we basically we kind of have a call out of we kind of call out the full Amanda Connor, Jimmy Palmiotti craziness that the new 52 Harley Quinn was all about here with Ivy saying like, really, are you like what are you going to do with all this? Like an army of parademons. Don't you think you're going a little too big here? Is this what you want, like for your villainy? So I don't know. It was kind of nice. And point being, this is like Psycho draws the line. We had all the power in the world, and you just gave it up. I'm out. We still have a bunch of parademons flying around. I love how we call that out in the status quo. Like, yeah, we're still kind of screwed in Gotham right now.
Mhm.
And Harley still can't tell Ivy her feelings. And basically we have that really kind of heartbreaking yet funny, like, hey Harley, what do you think of that? Like, yes, just it breaks your heart.
Yeah.
Or this next one should go by rather fast. Number 9, Bachelorette. Yeah, this one's not my favorite. How do you feel about Bachelorette?
Oh, I thought it was a decent episode. I don't know if it's like my one of my least favorites. Well, I'll probably let me see which episode's it. Hmm. I guess it's not a super bad episode, but I guess it's sort of the one of the lower ends of it. There's certain parts of it that are pretty funny. The Cobb salad gang tattoo was funny, especially the cutaway that was like in homage to the Super Friends intro.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, obviously we have the invisible plane and everything. But let me tell you this: episode 9. Um, for me, it was kind of the inevitable one with the wedding
Mhm.
at play, where it was just kind of an episode I was kind of dreading getting to in a sense. I mean, not in terms of, like I was expecting it would be bad. It was like the most. It was the inevitable episode. Okay, we're gonna have we're gonna do like the wedding thing. We're gonna do the bachelorette party, and the problem I had is Themyscira doesn't really make sense as a bachelorette destination for me. In terms of like, yeah, ultimately, like, hey, we're gonna go to an island with men, which is like adjacent to Themyscira, which kind of defeats the point of Themyscira.
I figure with the way Themyscira was like being manipulated by like Lex Luthor and that like one female villain in the
Yeah,
back.
Eris, I think her name is. Yeah.
Yeah. So they made so Themyscira wouldn't traditionally be like a vacation spot, but I think with the whole like corporate restructuring, it's like, oh, it's an all like it's an all female like resort, where all your needs are taken care of, and it's Paradise Island. So I guess it's just the whole branding of it.
Yeah, it's basically the cash in on Themyscira. But yeah, here's the thing: I love that it made sense because Diana was, she's sealed in the book. So we're kind of like it's the logical aftermath of, well, they're again, chaos is kind of reigning right now, and like, hey, also Lex Luthor can make a buck because who's going to stop him?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, I don't like that again. That aspect I like, but it's just honestly a lot of the things I didn't like in the season were kind of in this episode, which I don't think helped it for me. And that I didn't. Okay, so King Shark, going down there, and we learn that King Shark is like betrothed to be married to like broker like a peace between his people,
Mhm,
and that's why he left because he didn't want the arranged marriage.
mhm.
I didn't like the whole under the sea poop joke. I didn't like that.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, it lasted a little bit longer than it needed to be.
Honestly, it's two bits that really stuck out to me in this episode. I think I like all the humor in the Harley Quinn show with these two gags. Really didn't do it for me. It was the poop. There was the under the sea joke, and more so, I really wasn't crazy because after we just hit the nail so perfectly in that Mr. Freeze episode, Nora Freeze come along is one thing, but Nora Freeze like ended up with Maxie Zeus just makes you feel a little dirty, doesn't it? Just feels like, oh man, that's not right.
I
She
mean,
shouldn't
I
be.
feel like in the moment, like they're all just inebriated and just
Yeah,
drunk out, and it's sort of a more lust than love connection. I feel like.
yeah. I think she's like still with him in the like they're in the wedding. I don't know.
Are they? I'm trying to.
Maxie Zeus is there. I guess I'm assuming because they're both there, they're still together. But I mean, it could have been a fling. I don't know. It just feels like I don't know. It was like a visual just kind of made me uncomfortable. Like, just, oh man, after that beautiful take on a love story, and like now she's like just moving on, but then there's moving
Yeah,
on with Maxie Zeus.
if it had been like Jennifer, as she would like to refer to
Yeah,
some.
that's the thing. Jennifer would be perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I don't know. Bits like honestly, it was kind of like a compiling factor like that, and then you question like the logic of Themyscira, and I don't know. It's just, and the fact that it was just kind of an episode like, okay, honestly just feels like a filler episode. It feels like okay, with the exception of one crucial plot point
Mhm.
in which Harley and Ivy sleep together. Which again, this is we make a running gag, but they just can't keep their hands off each other after these drunken supers. And the fact that we're going to use this later on, that's the only important thing to come out of this episode. Otherwise, it's like, okay, bachelorette party because we have to, and we can always shortchange the bachelor party
Mhm.
with King Shark. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
what it is.
I kind of wish there was an equal bachelor party where all the guys were together and had their bonding moments rather than like King Shark was just taking off and I would have loved to see how like Kaiman interacted with all the male members of the team.
I gotta be honest, we're gonna get to it soon, but like King Shark had a moment this season that utterly like shocked and fascinated me, but it wasn't in this episode, which would have been like the big King Shark backstory episode to maybe do that in.
I know you're
Yeah,
talking
we'll
about.
get there. It just
Yeah.
felt really weird that why didn't we put in retrospect, like, why didn't we put that here? I mean, probably would have collapsed the tone in on itself, I realize, but it just feels like, if we're gonna dedicate like this much time to King Shark, that's kind of an important detail.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, let's move on to 10. So 10's a really good one. 10 is Die Hard. Not that Die Hard, but close. So, yeah, I just love the idea that Harley Quinn, after like okay, her friends getting married, it's essentially like the day or so before the wedding, and Harley she hits the bar scene at Wayne Tower, and essentially we turn Wayne Tower into Nakatomi Plaza,
Mhm,
and with her being paired up with the sane Joker, which is quite fun.
mhm.
Oh, how great does she look in that dress? Just want to shout that out for a second. The design and everything, she looks great in kind of like the spinster mode.
Yeah, I really love the dynamic with both Harley and Sane Joker.
Yeah, he's like
Um,
her therapist because he's a bartender.
yeah, yeah, it's like initially you could tell how just frustrated and annoyed she is, and then just over time she starts to like warm up to him.
Yeah, they become genuinely friends, and I like that there's like a hint at potential. Obviously, it's not really in the cards because they ivy of it all, but it's like ultimately there's like kind of a hint of like she may have found her kite man, so to speak. She's kind of found perhaps like the relationship she always wanted and probably needed with the Joker. You know, so again, it's like kind of adding kind of an extra element there. Of course, the aftermath of the parademon infested Gotham as they're flying around and everything. I think Wayne Tower has like a protection grid around it or something.
Mhm.
So we have a hostage situation, which is basically orchestrated by the Riddler to basically hijack this helmet for Doctor Psycho. We reveal,
Yeah.
which again pretty much Die Hard with the whole like you think it's a like a terrorist attack, and it's ultimately it's a robbery.
Mhm.
Let's see. We have the funny. I think the funniest gag of season 2 is in this episode. It's the darkest gag, but it's the funniest gag.
Oh, the
Where
Cancer Ray.
yes, God, yes. So he's we're in the Wayne R&D lab. It's a question like, why on earth would Lucius Fox ever build this?
Or allow or sanction or allow development of such a device.
I know. I'm going to assume it's because like Bruce Wayne was out of commit. I like to think it was like Bruce Wayne was out of commission or something, but
I
who
mean,
knows?
it could be. I mean, it could be a thing because it's like in real life there are certain labs that have like vials and samples of like deadly diseases that you have in storage to conduct research and all that stuff. So
Hopefully, on how to cure it.
yeah, yeah, and so that's true. And so it could be the case where like it can't like the ray is supposed to be like pointing at like cells.
Yeah, like
You
it's
study,
cells or lab mice or something.
yeah, and you study the effects of like cancer of like how long it takes to take for the cells to be cancerous.
I
And
know it's so dark, but again, this the delivery of that henchman after they
yeah,
had like a little chit chat with each other, and then like Harley shows up and like just finds a weapon, she just fires this ray at him. So it looks absolutely fine. Then we just reveal that little placard. It's like my jaw dropped with laughter, just like Harley Quinn. Did you just give me cancer? it's so dark, but
I'm
it's
just
so
waiting
funny.
for a Batman villain to be made in the comics called Captain Cancer that has the cancer ray gun,
Oh God,
and then you have that character show up in Harley Quinn.
that would be okay. That'd be God, that'd be hysterical.
He after he shoots the person, it's like I'll kill you slowly, but then afterwards there's the bills.
Or he says something like, "Well, see you in 6 months, or not." Bum bum bum. It's like they have like a really bad villain line. Yeah.
You know who would be his you know who would be the arch enemy of
Who?
Jane Foster.
Ooh. Oh wow. That's God. Yeah. That's well. No, Deadpool would be the arch enemy. Yeah.
Before or after the original Captain Marvel?
Oh boy. Yeah. Well, probably. Yeah. Probably before, and he loses. Okay. Okay. Enough of the cancer humor. Let's not make light too much light of that. let's.
Just cut that
Uh,
tumor out.
what?
Just cut that tumor out.
Yeah, yeah. Sure. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so Gordon he's dealing with parademons in like a mundane way. He pushes the button while Batman pilots the Batwing, and I love that whole like I don't know. It's like really, it's a nice gesture. Like, hey, buddy, you get to fly in the plane and help out, and I don't know. It's kind of like a nice kind of a duo thing. He's dying to fly the plane. Batman lets him do it ultimately. That's kind of nice. Um, Okay, so we reveal that Doctor Psycho and the Riddler have teamed up with that whole the whole getting the helmet thing that magnifies power.
Mhm.
Essentially, he makes a deal with Darkseid to bring him Harley Quinn's head in exchange for the army and everything. Basically, do it on his terms. I love Joker recognizing Commissioner Gordon, like it's kind of coming out of him once he's captured. Gordo, is that you? Which, oh god, it sends a chill up my spine. I love it. Psy has his big sacrifice here. We kill off Psy Borgman. Man, how sad was that?
Yeah. Although it gets a little bit undercut in light of the what second to last or last episode of the season where he.
Yeah. We honestly, if we're gonna bring him back, that's the way to do it, though. Like as an AI, so
Mhm.
it's not bad because it's the fact like what you felt it though, and it's the fact okay, we get to keep him
Oh
around, but
man, you can find so much humor in the next season where it's like he's just acting like curmudgeonly, and it's like the only way to fix his curmudgeonness is to do a software update.
oh yeah, that'd be really funny. Like he'd be buffering and stuff. Like who knows? Yeah. Let's see. So I like that there was like genuine pathos there too. Like he was like the best landlord she ever had, which it's kind of funny. It's kind of Birds of Prey done right. We had like that random landlord character who didn't factor in at all, who you kind of felt for. At
Yeah.
least you thought for a moment, but no, Sai was the real deal. So ultimately, we return to Ace Chemical and we see, Harley Quinn. She has to recreate the Joker so she can basically. The situation's so bad, we need to get the Justice League and the book that the Justice League's in. Only Joker knows the whereabouts, so we go full circle with the origin of Harley Quinn. We like push her in the vat, so she does that to the Joker and basically recreates him, and it's very sad. And that brings us to episode 11, a fight worth fighting for. So, what do you think of this one, man?
I think it was an interesting episode. I think the best part of it is the dynamic between Joker and Harley when they're in that one parademon nest.
I love how we go from like her and the sane Joker to back to her and Joker after they both have had kind of some very enlightening, kind of change filled adventures over 6 months.
Hmm.
Yeah. Of course, Joker is a suburban dad. I love Bethany. I love that we get to meet Bethany and just see like this lady we kind of talked up with the kids and like she's so mad at him and then Joker ultimately romances her. It's
Hmm.
really funny.
Yeah, it was interesting to like even in a different persona or be inner being amnesiac, like there's certain aspects that are essentially core to the Joker, and so you wonder like just trying to imagine like Bethany and her kids somehow like getting to the vat of acid and becoming Jokerized themselves and
Oh
like full
god. I
Joker
mean,
crime family.
well, that's the thing. Joker is like at the end of this episode. Joker is he's still sticking with the relationship, even though basically it's like he's liking as a serial killer with a family.
Mhm.
Yeah, like a better reason to kill for love.
I love. Did he? Isn't there a gag about like hey, like or about Joker running in wingtips that he came up?
Yeah. With Joker running, he can't run in wingtips, and he keeps falling down when they're doing the chase in the parademon nest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. So, we had like Doctor Psycho's origin, which is really just kind of random and funny. Where we learned Doctor Psycho essentially wanted to ride a Ferris wheel as a kid, and he just kept trying and trying to kind of grow himself, and ultimately there's like no point to the story. It's just that, and then the Ferris wheel fell, and I liked seeing people die. And this Darkseid's like questioning. I don't think that tracks. Just the fact that Darkseid's like questioning the logic of this story is really funny. Yeah. So pretty much it's the quest for a book, and ultimately, I think we find it. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, of course, I love too the Batman. I love that Batman captures Harley and Joker, and the three of them just kind of catch up in the Batwing, and like he says, "Yes, I had a girlfriend or like an ex-girlfriend." Like I'll tell you on the way, and everything's really funny. So everyone's kind of caught up and back in the loop. It's just it's fun. So not a whole lot there. And again, 11's really just kind of setting up the pieces for the finale. It's really in two parts ultimately.
Yeah.
So that brings us to 12. Lovers Quarrel. So this is a big one. This is where we have like kind of our reveals and kind of the big setup for the finale, where Kite Man and Harley Quinn they team up to save Ivy, who basically is being manipulated by Doctor Psycho and is basically the big powerhouse that after the Justice League have taken care of the parademons, they got to deal with a very superpowered Ivy.
Mm-hmm.
How great was that Superman gag, by the way, when they were taking out the parademons? The whole like when basically he's kind of shaming Wonder Woman. The whole like, not all aliens speak the same language, understand each other. Like it's different languages, but I do know a little parademons. Just the assumption, it's a little racist.
Do better.
Just look, I love Wonder Woman's like eye rolls here and there. Like she's just rolling her eyes there, and she's rolling her eyes like Batman's like Bruce Wayne's a friend of mine. It's like, oh god, we all know. Okay, man, we got it.
I love Lake Bell's voice acting this episode.
Yes, it's just the Tony Hale impression. Yeah.
Wow, it's like a CW cast.
It's like a CW cast, and the whole I think the funny line is, "Wow, isn't this exciting?" Gosh, I'm sorry, we're not doing it justice, but she's just really funny when she's doing the impression of Doctor Psycho.
And the initiation of what's potentially implied to be a threesome.
Yeah. The whole here's the initially I'm excited because like, hey, Wonder Bats, and then it's like, okay, now there's Superman, and that's there's an implied threesome going on.
It satisfied all the shippers.
Yep, and the fact that Wonder Woman has technically dated both of these guys in the history of 80 years, so. Well, roughly 80. I forget, like, Wonder Woman's younger than the two of them, but
I love Superman is like, do you like my muscles?
God. That was a whole like what's under the suit, Batman. It's just really that's weird. It's kind of like wrong, but it's like only Harley Quinn can get away with this, and the fact that obviously Harley Quinn, it's the weirdest thing. They can get away with all the violence they want to, but the sex stuff, apparently there is a line that DC does draw with some of it, and they're going to make fun of that in the new season. So it's just kind of weird how that works to me personally. But again, I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing to pull back on the reins a little bit, but still, I don't know. It's kind of funny that we're just going to have this scene. It's kind of came to me just thinking about it. Let's see. So, this episode we should mention this was Dr. Psycho's kind of torturing Harley's pals, and this is where we get the King Shark tragic backstory. I don't think any of us saw coming a mile away. And I gotta be honest, until the rewatch, I completely forgot about this. So when I rewatched this, I was like gobsmacked. Like, oh my god, how did I miss this?
What really sells it is Clayface's reaction.
Yeah, so we learned that King Shark, you think there was like King Shark's father is like, be nicer to your brother, and you think, okay, it's gonna be like, well, King Shark's a bit of a bully and he regrets it, but his brother cut his leg underwater, and he basically pulled a Bruce from Finding Nemo, only the darkest version of it, where it's like blood, and he basically, you ate your own brother. It's like, oh Jesus Christ! It's like, my God.
I mean, it's established that like blood is, like King Shark can be bloodthirsty in the first season with Damien.
Yeah, like I just thought he got a little fainty. Like, no, he's he's bloodthirsty, all right. It's gonna take shark repellent on that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, by the way, I call utter BS on Giant Clayface, and I like that Harley kind of calls it out. Like, you could do this the whole time. I hate it when we do Giant Clayface because I'll give you carte blanche on you. He can like create an infinite amount of things, but if you make it that he can like grow to the size, that's too much.
It makes him feel like Sandman.
That's the thing, and even so with Sandman, it's still, I mean, even Sandman sometimes, like, unless he's on like a beach or something, like or a construction site, I don't really buy that either. Like he has to, like, there's only so much like sand you can give that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll give you the sandstorm, but not the giant Sandman. My point being, these matter manipulating characters, there's got to be a line somewhere. All right, let's see. So we have Harley forced to fight Ivy, which he does not want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And basically begging for her life. And I love that Superman's not going to kill him. She's going to send him to the Phantom Zone, which just kind of Cal's like, all right, sure, yeah, I'll send you both to the Phantom Zone, no problem. So we defeat Dr. Psycho, and Harley is let's see. So Harley is I believe here Harley's offered like the big, like, hey, you want to you achieved your goal. You can have the army and they kind of rule the world and everything. And she turns that down for Ivy. But Darkseid says your indecisiveness confuses me. I'll terraform this planet into a scrapyard.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so we have Dr. Psycho's last screw you. So what does Dr. Psycho do at the end of this episode?
He just airs out Harley and Ivy's dirty laundry.
Yeah, I mean, and like it broadcasts it too, like everyone and their mother, like Alfred and everything. Like they all see Harley and Ivy going. They see the full affair unfold, and I just love it. We ended on kind of a somber note of like Ivy, Harley, and Kite Man.
I love King Shark's like, oh, this will drastically impact the dynamics of the crew.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's yeah.
Oh,
That's
and
it.
then Joker's reaction.
Oh, she's still limber. Or flexible or something. I think it's limber.
Yeah, it's limber.
Yeah. Anyway, so
No, Alfred like he looks away and then looks at it.
I love that Barbara and Jim, they just kind of like cover each other's eyes.
Yeah.
It's really funny. Let's see. So anyway, that brings us to the finale. This brings us to episode 13. Something borrowed, something green. So this is the big epic finale. This is where we kind of leave things off for the third season. So we're at the end. So we have the big wedding. So essentially, like they're kind of Ivy talks Kite Man into the wedding again, which is ultimately going to be a tragic mistake. And where are we having this wedding, friend? What prestigious location are we doing it at?
At the corn maze.
Yes, the old kind of corn factory. I forgot that had a corn maze until that parking lot gag. But yeah, the whole we're going to the corn factory.
Yeah.
Where Clint Howard got married.
Mm-hmm.
And
did Poison Ivy kill the Condiment King and his spouse?
Yeah, hilariously, she did it hilariously. Frank, the living plant, played by J.B. Smoove, of course. Curb Your Enthusiasm for the kids. Frank ate Condiment King.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how she got the venue. Ate Condiment King, and she was like texting, "Hey, they can't make it. Can we have it?" So let's see. So let's see. So of course, so we got the venue back and weddings happening. Again, this episode's pretty straightforward in what's happening in terms of okay, weddings back on, and Gordon he's been passed over for the key to the city. He feels really insulted by this, so Two-Face manipulates Jim Gordon again. We established that they had a little bit of obviously they have a history with each other, which was present during the whole season. Which Gordon he knows how to kind of manipulate Gordon, like, hey, you should run for mayor. What's really clever about this is that Two-Face ultimately he's in Arkham, and he basically did all this as a means of escape. Like, okay, I'm going to make sure Gordon's going after Ivy so I can get Harley to break me out, which worked wonders.
Yeah, I mean he did. I mean he did get elected. I mean he didn't get elected just by luck, right? He's definitely a master manipulator. I love Tim Burton showing up but not saying anything, and Clayface just wanting to get a role in a movie.
I caught something on the rewatch that I didn't before with the Tim Burton thing. I wonder if you did too. Well, I mean, I'm sorry. I wonder if you remember this from when you watched the thing. Apparently, according to Catwoman, that is not Tim Burton. That's Gary. It's a guy named Gary who looks like Tim Burton.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That's funny. I had no idea about that because I was thinking like everybody. It's like, oh, it's Tim Burton. He's just genuinely being touched by Clayface here, like by his aria. And by the way, well, they actually sang a really good aria that underscored all the chaos going on. So let's see. The point being, Catwoman brought Tim Burton lookalike as her date. We got some Batman Returns vibes there, which I'm sure was the intent. Let's see. So, boys, we have a big old sting operation at the wedding, which is full of supervillains, a little a la, Spider-Man and Mary Jane's wedding, a little bit, like the whole, the big fancy weddings that we've had with the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man, the big celebrity weddings. So everyone's there, and that basically could be that'd be the big feather in Gordon's cap to go from cop to hero, like a Batman, capture all in one fell swoop in broad daylight.
Yeah.
I love the detail that they swapped out all the flowers for plastics. That's such a great idea. Like, yeah, if we swap them out with plastic, Ivy's got no pull there. It's clever. So, tragedy here is Harley, again, thanks to Two-Face. She kind of got wind of all this, and she tried responsibly taking herself out of the wedding, but showed up to protect Ivy, and, there's this tragic end, man, of cut. Because you get man for sticking up for himself, don't you?
Yeah, it's it's so tragic for how Kaiman ended things because Kaiman really, without any qualifiers and hesitation, really cared for Ivy, but in the moment he grew to sort of realize about, that not necessarily being fully reciprocated by her.
Yeah, yeah, and he kind of points out, "You were right, Ivy. I do deserve better." And I love the whole like the what the hell yeah catchphrase. Hell no, and like what? No, like you're like we're at the venue and everything. She's ordained. Like we can do is like no, I'm not going to go for like a like kind of like a break glass in case of emergency wedding when everything's gone this wrong because you had and the fact that he calls out. I knew when I said my vows to you, you had that concerned look on your face, and you don't want to do this. It was just like such a real moment of him
Yeah,
saying like I'm not the person for you.
yeah, and the thing is, it's done in a way where like okay, like Kaiman in terms of what he's interested in terms of pop culture, just things he wants to do with like Ivy or whatever, aren't the cool things or things that people would want to do. But like in thinking of himself and like saying this is what I want out of a partner and all that stuff, like the show doesn't go out of its way to like mock him for it. Like like the way that the way Kaiman stands for himself, like he's not undermined comedically.
Yeah, we played it very genuinely, which was a smart call. Like, and it's an earned moment after we do so much comedy, but also we have like kind of this little thread that's been going through the season with the true love aspect, in which yeah, it's been really we've been
Yeah.
hitting the notes just right. Let's see so here's I love this. So again, the season ends. It ended with a question mark because I think legitimately they didn't know if they were coming back for a season. They probably had a good idea, but I love that there is a finality to this ending,
Yeah.
which it does bring things to a really nice close and a full circle now. Because think about it, they're if memory serves, they are in the car from the animated series in which they first really met each other. They're in the
Oh, that's
Rosebud
right. Yeah.
car from Harley and Ivy.
Yeah.
And the fact they're driving off together like Thelma and Louise, but very much like that episode, the whole tone of that episode was.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's like a full circle way of like what brought them together, and he kind of brought Harley Quinn into this world that kind of like that might take him out in kind of a sense of finality. It's tragedy for Kite Man, but it's like these two crazy kids are together, and in a sense, and which makes you really curious about season three is that we kind of said everything we need to say with the Harley Quinn character in those two seasons ultimately.
Yeah. But the fact is that it's sort of interesting for season three to explore the idea of like the honeymoon phase, and when that honeymoon phases ends in a new relationship, like then you had to deal with the hard part of actually maintaining a relationship.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and you know what's interesting? Did you read any of the? I believe it's called the Eat Bang Kill tour, like the
No,
one
I have
I.
not. I've seen like images of it like throughout social media, but never actually read it from page to page, like beginning to end.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think I forget. Here's the thing. I don't know if that's. I think that's more of like an intermediary season, like showing you the honeymoon phase, which is
Like a
likely.
2.5 sort of a deal.
Yeah, yeah, it's like a 2.5. I think Ultimate's a 2.5 that's probably going to get recapped a little bit in the first episode, like at the top. I think that's what that's, I think safe. I think the safe money's on that for me.
Okay.
But yeah, ultimately, just to kind of fill in the blanks there, it was let's see. Essentially, Gordon was still going after Harley and just kind of trying to chase her down. Like Batman had to try to call him out on it. Like, okay, Gordon, like rein it a little bit. And then
Mhm.
essentially, he has a Catwoman kind of like involved in a little bit of the adventure. And they famously had like the gag about kind of Batman, Catwoman in the bedroom, which they're going to reference again in the third season. So that was so yeah, it's very much them kind of playing. They're getting more self aware with the show,
Yeah.
it seems like in the tone of that comic and everything, and just it very much seems that's where we're going for the third season itself. So yeah, that's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting too. Here's what we know about the third season, based on like a little bit, like a few glimpses from the trailer here. We know Amanda Waller is going to be in the season, which is interesting, and we've made a few references to the Suicide Squad, so I think we might do like a full addressment of it.
Oh, she's in season three?
Yeah, she's going to be in season three. Yeah.
Yeah, I specifically chose not to watch the trailer
Oh,
because
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to spoil it
no,
for
no,
the
no, that's
audience.
fine. That's it's it's not your fault. Like that's out, it's out there. I just chose.
Yeah, it's like in the main trailer. It's like I don't even know how big a role she's. All I know is she just kind of pops up in the trailer. So yeah,
It would be, I was actually thinking like sometime after season 2 is over, it's like what if like Amanda Waller shows up and then recruits the entire gang to like be the Suicide Squad.
let me ask you something.
Sure.
In season 2, the episode in episode 11 when she's teaming up with the Joker after she's recreated him, she threatens him with a bomb in his head. Do you think that was real or do you think that was her bluffing?
She's bluffing.
Right? I mean, do you even know if that was confirmed, or are you just like safely betting that?
I'm safely betting that because they're
like, how would she be able to do that? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. All right. Okay. Well, I mean, overall, I think my correct. I think we were pretty much feeling season 2. I think we enjoyed season 2 a lot, right?
Yeah.
And looking forward to season 3.
Yeah.
Cool.
Comes out this Thursday, right?
Yes. I believe they're still sticking to Thursday. Honestly, on HBO Max, the DC animation stuff they put it out on Thursdays rather consistent now. The Young Justice,
not just animation, but also the HBO, also the DCU like Peacemaker stuff. So I figured, yeah, did it not come out on Thursday?
No. It did. I kind of forgot about it, but you're right though. Yeah, it did. They have. I guess they're sticking with Thursdays on everything with the DC.
Yeah, I guess
stuff,
since Disney Plus is all Wednesday, then HBO Max is, or at least for the super stuff, it's all Thursday stuff.
Yeah, we'll go with the day after. Yeah. Then Netflix has Friday.
You gotta have the last word for pop culture discussion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like each one has there's a thing about it. Home video releases are always on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have like Wednesday get Disney Plus, and then you got Thursday with HBO Max, and then Friday's Netflix. And I don't know where Amazon falls into things there, but
well, for The Boys, it's Friday. But like sometimes episodes will randomly show up Thursday night, so
Well, that's the thing. I mean, technically, well, I don't know, like the whole 3 a.m. thing, 3 a.m. to midnight thing. I don't want to dwell on that. But point being, so it's like ultimately, I think we're very satisfied with with the Harley Quinn animated show. Wanted shout out, of course, the showrunners Justin Halpern and Patrick Schumacher, different Schumacher. And they did an excellent job with the show, and I can't wait to see what they do next with it. And want to thank everyone who's hopefully going to tune in and kind of like maybe catch up with us before the season, or just after what they want to kind of satiate their Harley Quinn discussion stuff. They'll listen to this before season 3 wraps up, and then we kind of a discussion will be had about season 3 after it's all done.
Yep.
All right. So thanks for joining me, Rohith.
Thank you for bringing me over.
Yeah. I hope it didn't bore you.
No.
All right. So that's the end. Thank you, folks, for tuning in, and let's all tune in for Harley Quinn Thursday. Goodbye, Tim Burton.
I have a